So yesterday we were finishing up the facial animation as well as a quick round of retiming. So let's actually open up, let's go with version 1 and look at what we had before. So this was our very first pass, our very first blocking pass. And when we look at this, there's a few things to watch out for. 1, no hand poses. 2, no facial poses. 3, the timing is very even and very slow. These are 3 of the major roadblocks I tend to see with new student animation, specifically the hands and the timing. The facial stuff tends to come in when students start doing their pantomime shots, but with most shots that I'll see, it's the hands and the timing. So the hands are not posed out, so it makes the character look very dull and lifeless. Hands are super expressive in terms of the importance of the importance of what we as humans look at in terms of reading a person's personality and how they feel. Hands are number 3. You have eyes, face, hands, then body language. So hands are more important to us psychologically in terms of reading a character than the body, than all of the body. And yet it's the big thing that people just don't pose. They'll do it later, And it's okay to wait. So for example, here, my very first passive blocking, because I didn't know what I was going to go with the hands, I didn't pose them out. But this would not be the version of my shot that I would show to my director yet. I would at least do a quick hand pose before sending it out. I would never show a shot unless there's a very specific reason where the hands are just flat. Now, one of the common specific reasons is that I'm going to have to deal with a lot of object interaction. So I might not pose the hand out if the object isn't kind of ready. But I might at least try to get some, at least not perfectly flat, relax the hand, get some sort of grip pose, just to make it not the paddle hand. Paddle hand syndrome it just draws your eye to it when someone's doing this the whole time. Timing. The timing here was based off of reference and from real life motions that I had studied. And the problem with that, like we were talking about yesterday, is when you do that, timing tends to feel slow. It's not dynamic. There's something about it that tends to feel very even and, for lack of a better term, rotoscoped. Even though this animation wasn't rotoscoped at all, it still has that quality to it, that slowness, that evenness. So we want to try and exaggerate the timing from what our reference was. And that goes to the majority of shots. If you're using your timing from your reference, that's not a bad thing, but it's not going to be the most interesting. So try to push your timing. Then the facial expression, of course, the face is the number one, eyes, face, number one thing that we look at in terms of character. If your character has a face, try to put at least a default expression to the character. And what I mean by default is not the rig default, but the character default. Who is this character? Are they a really happy-go-lucky person? Are they a miserable grump? Are they a tired kind of surfer dude kind of character? Who is this character? Put that expression on the face right at the start, and even though it doesn't change and it doesn't really match what they're doing at the moment, at least it shows us who the character is. That's a good thing to do. If your mentor or whoever doesn't want to see any face stuff, which is very common when you're a student, often what I'll do is I'll put a box or something over the face so that it hides the eyes and the face. That way we can focus 100% on the body mechanics. Just seeing these blank eyes, it's super distracting, and we look at it, it's like, ugh. It automatically makes the shot look worse than it really is. So we addressed all of those. We posed the hands, retimed, did the face, and now we have this. Now you can see the timing is much faster, much snappier. The motions of the hands have quick motions. We exaggerate the holds. The hands have actual posing in them, so it makes it dynamic. The face is expressive. It brings the shot to life. Now, is it perfect? No, there's still more we can do. There's always more we can do. But we're starting to get there. At this point for this shot, there's a few different paths that we can take. So right now, this shot is on 2s, 3s, and 4s. There's no consistent, like, all 2s, all 3s, all 4s. It's kind of a mix right now because of our retiming, which is fine. Honestly, the holds don't need more keys because they're holds. And then the fast motions are on 2s, which is good. Now, we could take this a few different ways. I could leave it like this, kind of have that 2D feeling to it, that anime, traditional animation feeling. So it's fine to keep it on 2s, 3s, and 4s. If I do want to do that, I might take some sections and go from 4s and bring them onto 2s, just to keep things consistent a little bit more, just for the sake of it. Or I could go into splines at this moment. I don't think I'm going to go to splines with this personally, because I do kind of want that anime feel, that 2D feeling to the shot, but we'll see. We can always do that at any point. So the next thing we need to do is we need to do the hair, because as you can see, the hair is just this block, especially that big back part of the hair is just a solid block that doesn't do anything. And it's really killing the feel of the shot because, well, one, it's cutting through the character. There's a lot of points that our silhouette is being messed up, like right here and then right here, because that hair is clipping through the character. So we need to fix this. We need to add overlap to the bangs over their eyes. We need overlap on their little tie. And then there's more clothing options that we can bring into the character and add overlap in there. As well as we actually don't have all of the hair turned on yet. And there is a ponytail back here. You can kind of see it right on this frame. So there's a lot of things that we still need to work on here. Now, let's actually just jump into that. One day I'll be able to breathe properly. I don't know why my nose is all just stuffed up today. So we've got our shot here. Let's zoom in. And if we hit play, we've got our motion coming through there. It's all working great. Yay. Now, how do we approach animating the hair? Well, there's a few different ways we can do it. There's the copied method. So essentially you're going to copy animation from parts of the rig or the first strand of hair. So let's say you animate, we'll look at the back of the head here. You would animate the top section of the hair, just animate the overlap on that, copy that over onto the next section, copy that over onto the next section, and overlap them. Just offset the timing. That's one way. We'll give that a try at some point. Specifically, she has two tassels right there on the side of her face. We'll do it on that because it'll be easier to see. We have the straight ahead method. So essentially, you just take your hair and frame 1, pose it out, frame 2, pose it out, so on and so forth. Or you go every 4 frames typically. That's how I approach it. And you just animate the hair overlapping like that. We could do that. I'm going to do that for certain sections. And then we have the draw over method, which is my favorite method, which is you actually draw over with something like a grease pencil, or you could do it in Sync Sketch, Keyframe MP, draw out the hair motion that you want, and then just match the hair to your drawings. Now, the reason I like this is because it gives you a lot of freedom to change things and update things very quickly without having to go through a rig. And this is going to be very important for us here. So let's actually turn off the body controls. We don't need to see these right now. And let's turn off the facial controls, make sure those are off. So we'll have all that. Okay, and actually I'm just going to have to double check I have controls. Which one do I want visible? Okay, good. So I just want to make sure we have our timing here that we can base ourselves off of. And then let's turn on the hair controls. So here are all the hair controls. Now for certain parts of the hair, so for example, the ponytail is a pretty straightforward, just FK chain. So we have the base chain there, you go forward, you animate the second part, go forward, animate that, and you can quickly make a pose right there. That's great. So this is very nice when you're using the straight ahead method or that copy method, because you can just animate the base of the ponytail and then move through the rest. Yay. But what if you have a piece of hair like this one back here? Let me actually take the ponytail and I'm going to... Let's just delete these keys. We don't need them. I'm going to do this in the graph editor, make sure I get all of them. Boop. There we go. I'm just going to take the ponytail right now. Just get it out of the way, move it up. We'll animate the ponytail last, since we don't really see it. But we've got the base of the hair here, the whole back of the head. And if we look at this, it's actually made of 3 parts. You've got the left side right here, you've got the right side, and then you've got the middle. Now, with this, the problem here is that it's going to be very hard to go straight ahead with this because there's just a lot of parts. And Kongi Kong, hey! Thank you so much, and good morning! Hope you're doing well! And Catherine, thanks for the reminder. I really appreciate the subscription. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let's see. At some point, I would love a collection of your Twitch stream animations in one location. Yeah, I need to play blast them at some point and just like show them off. I have a really hard time with like social media and stuff. I don't post things online. I never got used to it, so I never put them anywhere afterwards. But with this this hair, this is going to be a little trickier to do a copied pair method, or sorry, not copied pair, a copied method where we just copy one joint and then paste it on, because the hair is actually made out of 3 separate sections here. So we're going to have to really shape this and go for the overall feeling of it versus just the a quick copy, if that makes sense. So for something like this, I tend to prefer using... Oh, we could actually just scale it down there too if we wanted to. That's actually kind of a cool look. I never actually just tried scaling it down. Wonder if we just can make that a lot shorter. I actually like that. Nice. But we're trying to animate this with the correct proportions, so or the rig proportions, so we can't just scale the hair. I'm trying to treat this like if this was a studio environment. Here's the character you're animating. You can't just shorten the hair if you want to. For example, Rapunzel. If you're animating Rapunzel, you can't just go, I don't want to animate the hair today. No, you've got to do it. Maybe in a future animation, if we use this rig again, which I would like to, we might do a shot where we adjust the rig proportions and try to do something a little different. So for this character, for the back of the hair, the thing that I want to try and accomplish is to just kind of block out the general shape of it and just kind of animate it essentially in 2D. And you don't have to have like great drawing skills in order to do something like this. So for example, what I'm going to do here, the very first thing I do with hair is I'm at least going to do the very first pose. The reason for this is that's where all the animation will be built off of later on. So I'm gonna at least pose that out. So here, let's just do this super quick. So we'll do the back of the head first. The hair is going to drag down. So she's just kind of standing in this pose. The hair is going to be dragging down. We can maybe add a little bit more of a curve to it here, just to shape it a little bit. Get a nice flow right through there. Other side. Let's drag that. And it's going to be pushed back by the shoulder right here. So just trying to shape it. There's not too many controls on this rig, so I'm going to have to be very careful how I push this. And let's try to get it so, you see here how I had this straight line? I don't want that. Straight lines tend to make things feel kind of flat and dead. So even though this is kind of a starting pose, because her shoulder is pushing back there, that would push the hair back, kind of roll that around. You'd get a little bit of a flow to it. So we might actually maybe bring this down and kind of round that out just a little bit more there. So something like this. Just get a nice starting form there. And in the middle here, we're just going to use this to kind of create a nice flow. Even though we don't see it too much, you'll still feel it right in the middle there. So I want to make sure we're not just skimping out. This is one of those things in animation where it can be tempting to just go, no one will see it. It's fine. Don't need to do anything with that. But if there is a chance that the audience will see it. So for example, here, they will feel that motion of the hair. It's good to put some work into it. You don't have to go full, like, in depth, get every single pixel absolutely perfect. But it is good to get that attention to detail in there. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to look at the base right there. Try to get a nice form. And then the other thing I'm trying to do is I don't want the side of the hair to just feel like it's twinned right here. See how it's kind of doing the same shape on both sides? Let's try to exaggerate that a little bit more. So maybe push that angle here a little bit more. Maybe something like that. So we have one coming in and then the other one going in as well. Just a little bit. Okay. So this first form, we're taking our time with this because it's going to be where the hair comes from. Everything's going to be built off of this. So it's similar to the first pose when you're doing a full character. It's good to take a little bit of time on this. Make sure you've got that visual appeal to it, all that good stuff. Okay. So we're getting that. And we could go through the rest of the hair if we wanted to. Let's actually do that. No, actually, I'm on frame 3. Why am I on frame 3? Doing all of this initial posing on the wrong frame. Okay, frame 1. That's better. So we could go through here and just quickly pose out the hair. Since the character is kind of at a standstill at the very beginning of the shot, the hair is essentially just going to hang down. Now, a common kind of misconception with hair is that it's supposed to be very flowy. So what I mean by that is that everything's going to drag straight down. And yeah, it does, but it really depends on the hair type. And it honestly, lots of times doesn't move that much. Even for people with very fine hair, unless they're doing like a crazy amount of motion, hair mostly kind of bounces versus dragging straight down. The big reason is it's light. It's just hair. There's not much weight to it. So, for example, here, the hair is not going to plaster itself against her face unless it's wet, which means it's going to be a little heavier. It's going to kind of retain its form away from her face. Especially, you can see how it curls already just in design. That means it's kind of bouncier haircut. So we're not going to be posing this out in like these really dramatic ways. Even like, for example, for me, let's ruin my hair here. If I take, let's say, a strand of hair like this, so we've got a strand of hair. As I move, now you can see it just kind of points down, but notice the curl at the end. There's actually, you got a pretty decent curl right there. Let's see if we can see. There you go. It's got the full curl. As we move, that curl doesn't change. It's rotating from up here, and the rest just kind of hangs down. It's not flowing and whipping around. Even if let's try to separate that a little bit more. If I do bigger motions, see where the rotation is coming from? It's up here. The rest of the hair is just doing this. Hair is not super wavy a lot of the times. Once again, even with people with, like, I've got curly hair. People with straight hair, if you do that, it's not going to be going like this in this kind of snaky pattern. It's mostly going to be doing that because the hair strands kind of lock together. It holds a form and moves in a clump. And it supports itself. So the main rotation is at the base because that's where all the weight is being held. All the weight of the hair is being held up there. So I am not going to be going overboard and like bending these shapes here. If I did, that's going to ruin the feeling of hair. So hair is simpler in a lot of ways than a lot of people assume. And in that sense, it also makes it a little bit more complex because we have to be very careful how we animate it. We can't just go in here willy-nilly and change the shape however we want. So, just something to be aware of. Even here, I feel like I'm pushing this a little too much. In this case, the arm is pushing it, so I do want that feeling in there. But I might just bring it back a tad here. Something like that. Okay. So let's say, is this pretty good? Kind of want to bring this in just a little bit more. Just get that curl in that hair so it kind of wraps around a little bit. Okay. So let's say that's a good first hair pose. Definitely beats having the hair just straight down and super stiff. And now we're getting the shoulder silhouette, which is good. Okay. So from here, we need to start animating the base of the hair. And the way I like to do that a lot of times is with the grease pencil, like I was talking about before. So with the grease pencil tool, essentially what I'll do is I'll just draw out the hair, just this simple shape. Don't need any more than that. And then from there, I start to animate it straight ahead. So we'll just go forward, and I might not do every single pose. I'll just kind of do the big changes. So for example, here, there's not going to be much change to the hair. The character is moving somewhat slowly down. So the hair, it's just going to kind of hang down. It's probably going to be a little straighter here. So in that section right there. And then as she starts to pull away, it's going to continue to hang. So attach, you find where the hair gets attached and then just kind of drag it back here. And this is where the grease pencil tool is really nice because you can really exaggerate things. So, okay, maybe the hair is going to like really swing through here. And then you can quickly check, does that make sense? Not really, because why is it suddenly going out this way? That makes no sense. If the hair is kind of being pulled, it's not going to swing out the opposite direction. That, if you've done the pendulum assignment, that's one of the core principles of it, is that the pendulum is not going to go in an opposite direction with no reason. So I could try that out and go, no, that doesn't work. So instead, let's kind of have this come down. It's dragging still, but it's going to drag back maybe more like this. As she comes up. So we get that drag. Does that feel good? We look at that. And already I'm feeling like, no, that doesn't feel good, because it makes it feel like this point is pinned right there. It's almost like the hair is being pulled down and then something's holding it. No, don't need that. So let's clean that up again. What do I want? Well, like we already talked about, hair doesn't overlap that much. So even though she's starting to move back here, all I really need is to keep the hair kind of dragging downwards right here. Just a little bit of drag right there. And that feels better. Right through there. Okay. There we go. Now, let's actually, I'm going to change my background color in Maya. That should make it a little easier to see our frames. One thing I wish Blue Pencil had, actually, let me double check the settings. Yeah. Let's do that. Nice. Previous and next frame colors. Yay. I always forget it has that. It makes it so much easier to see your spacing. Okay. So let's keep going. The hair comes through. And here we're going to really start getting that drag. So the hair is going to be pulling through. I don't want it to get dragged at a sharp angle here. They're not moving that much. And again, hair is stiff. So let's kind of drag that, kind of keep that shape. And essentially what I'm trying to do is push that feeling that the hair is pointing back to the position it used to be in. So it's trying to be where it used to be. That's a little too much right there, I feel. So essentially just thinking of the pendulum assignment. For those of you who have done that assignment or are in Animation Mentor, just trying to think of those principles right through there. Now she gets pulled back. I kind of want to start reversing that shape here. So I don't want to just like keep it in the C. I want to start kind of S-ing it through a little bit. So we're going to start to do that a little. She comes through. Now the hair is going to overlap. This is where we're really going to get that first moment of overlap, because suddenly she stops, but that hair is going to want to keep going. And this is where we can really exaggerate things. So she comes through here. Where's that hair going to go? Well, we could just go like way out. Whew. Is that going to work? Something like that. No, because there's not enough momentum that would throw the hair that far back. Even if I whip my head over, again, I've got curly hair. Whoosh, do you see that hair move? It's stuck to my neck because it literally just makes a cage. Once it wraps around here, I'm just going to have like a scarf that's just going to hold the whole time. And there you go. It's not going to overlap at all. So, luckily her hair is not like mine. It's not that curly. Yeah, that's a look. Get that whole bearded look. There we go. Get it all entwined. Aha. Oh. There we go. Perfect. It's a nice warm muff. The height of fashion. So we don't want this. That's going to be too much. The hair is going to feel too light. And again, you have to know your characters. What's their character's hair? Is it curly? Is it really light? Is it magical hair? So maybe it's like that magical hair that's like constantly floating, almost like they're underwater. Think of characters like Korra when she's in the Avatar state. You have She-Ra. You have there's a movie that just had that. Scarlet Witch. Does the Scarlet Witch's hair do that? I don't think so. But you have some characters where when they activate their powers, Dragon Ball Z kind of, their hair starts to float. Well, that's going to have different properties compared to regular hair. So as animators, we need to know what our character's hair, what's it going to be like? Now, this is assuming you're the one animating and it's not the VFX department. So here, the hair comes through, drags, and then let's just add kind of this little bit of overlap. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to push this kind of form here, this S shape to it. Add a little bit more weight. I want to see a little bit of the silhouette on this side. It's also still got some upwards momentum, so it's going to compress upwards. Just a little. So something like that. And then here, it's starting to come down. As the body drops down, the hair is going to want to continue where it was going, but it's still being dragged by this point. So we might get something. Okay, attaches there. So it's continuing. It's going to basically collapse in on itself. So we might start getting something like this. I'm not great at drawing hair, so I can't draw like the overlapping forms. I can draw shapes. But it's going to start kind of compressing in right here. You're going to get that squash pose, essentially. And I'm just playing through. Does this feel correct? I feel like this side is not quite right, so I'm just going to clean that up. Okay. So something along there. Draw Ultra Instinct Bow. Ah, just the hair. And it's just going to be curly, so it'll just be a mat of hair. Reminded me, I must draw once my assignment's done. Oh yeah, finish that assignment first. And show it to me. I want to see the assignment. And then we will do the Ultra Instinct Bow. What is my Ultra Instinct? What would be my Ultra Instinct? What are my instincts? My instinct to survive is at an all-time low. Like, I don't drink water, which, I reminded myself for once. My instinct to sleep and eat, nope. Instinct to... what are my instincts? Do I have any? Let's see. My instinct to animate. There you go. So here, we want that hair to now overlap. The hair is still going to want to keep traveling a little bit more screen left. But once again, keep in mind the hair is stiff, so it's not going to be like that. That's going to be too much, especially for her hair. So instead, let's just try to keep it. It's kind of, I'm going to try to get a reversal here a little bit in the hair so we can get this nice silhouette in there. But even then, it's going to be kind of simple. Like, how does this feel? Too much. It feels like the hair is lengthening it also feels like it's too light. We're not following the specifics of this hair type. So we try again. And this is what I love about the 2D method, is that you can very quickly just try things out. So how does this feel? Okay, that's a little better. We're cutting through here. We get that nice overlap. Here, there's something about the hair that I feel is missing. I feel like right there, it's too heavy. So let's try that again. So let's imagine that hair coming through. Maybe a little bit more like that. Comes through. I feel like maybe here could be kind of pushed a little higher right there. So something like that. We'll go with that for now. We might tweak it in a little bit. Okay, let's keep going. And you'll notice I'm doing right now every pose. I don't have to. This is the beauty of this kind of workflow, is you don't have to do every single key or every single pose. Often when I'm doing this, I'm going to go on 4s. Since I retimed this and I'm in step mode, it's not going to work too well if I do that. But I'm just trying to see the hair. There's going to be weight to the hair. So again, hair is not going to be floaty. It's not going to do this because gravity's pulling it down. So get away. There we go. So let's simplify this. It's going to be down, but maybe kind of S it a little bit here. I think I'm getting a little long with the hair as well, so let's keep it a little shorter. So maybe a little bit more like this. So it comes through, around. We're going to just go on 4s here, so I'm going to skip that other pose. And here, it's essentially just going to hang down. And as we come up, there might be a little bit of extra momentum, so we might kind of start to push that up screen right a little bit. Get that weight up into that section. And then as it comes up here, now she's standing up faster. It's essentially just going to hang down. Comes up. Let's kind of drag that. Oops, I'm on the wrong frame there. Okay, so this is going to drag. And then as she comes to a stop, we might have a little bit of that overlapping action here, where it still wants to kind of go upwards in this direction. So let's see, a question. I'm currently using Maya, and I'm having issues loading some rigs. When I open the scene, the rigs are all morphed. I get a message when opening the scene about unknown nodes. What would be the case? Because Maya is a lesser version. I know Maya doesn't support Python. Maya does support Python. Most of the scripts I've ever written are in Python. If the rigs, Maya LT, okay, yeah, that's probably the issue. If you're using Maya LT, yeah, that's going to be probably the issue, because a lot of rigs do use Python scripting and other plugins. So I believe Maya LT has issues with certain blend shapes. There's a few features, rigging features, that are not available to us. So not only is Python not supported, but certain features that certain rigs need, are not in it. So that could definitely be the issue. So unfortunately, I don't know if there's any solution to that. I do know that Maya LT has been replaced by Maya Indie. So I don't know how Maya's licensing works and all of that, but maybe you can work on, or you can like not upgrade, but like switch the license to a Maya Indie license. Again, I'm not sure if that's possible though. Let's see. So we've got the overlap here. That's too much. See how that hair just kind of flips out? Nope, wouldn't do that. So I can just quickly come through here. I don't want to keep that same shape, so it's curling around. Let's kind of push that curl down a little bit. Yeah, something like that. I'm watching that shape language. So we're going straight. Oops. So we've got that straight here. It's morphing. I'm watching my line weight. So it's going up, and then it's going like this. And then let's clean that up. It's kind of doing this. So I'm changing that shape as we go along, so that the hair feels dynamic and doesn't just feel like it's a curve that's rotating. Okay, now she's gonna pull through. And you don't want to spend too much time with this here. The main reason you don't want to spend time on this is how close am I going to be able to match this to my rig? I'm not too sure, especially since I haven't done hair animation on this rig before. So I just want to get a basic idea here versus trying to get perfection. I can always adjust the poses later. So I just want a little bit more drag here. Just a little bit, because of that nice push forward there. So the hair is gonna come through, and then the character comes to a stop. And I want just a little bit of an overlap here. So as the character comes in, wrong frame. It really doesn't matter that I draw it on the exact correct frame. Let's kind of overlap this here. And kind of down. So that, and then it'll settle kind of straight here. Okay. So let's take a look at this, see how it feels. Okay, not bad. It looks like she has a beard. So the majority of it works pretty well. The ending is terrible right now. Already, I can see that, yep, that's not going to work. So the beginning part here, that works pretty well. Drag up, that overlap here works nicely, I feel. Right here, the hair's feeling sticky. So, I didn't waste a lot of time on this. Like, we're taking time on this because I'm explaining it, I'm talking my way through it. I'm just kind of going slowly. When you're doing this, just kind of animating on your own, this would have literally been like 3 or 4 minutes worth of work. So I can just kind of redraw the hair here, and you can see I draw very roughly. Draw that through. Okay, how does that feel? That's better. So already I feel that works a little bit nicer right through there. Now at the back here, I like the bounce right here. That feels good. I feel like this works pretty well. I think maybe the hair could kind of have a little bit more weight to it right there. But then here comes up right there. Plip. That feels too heavy. Right there. So we redo it. And this is, again, the beauty of this type of animation is it doesn't take long to try out different ideas. This one doesn't work. It feels like it's too heavy, so it's like the momentum is pushing it too far forward. So I know that's not going to work. So we go up here. If we just settle here, that feels kind of flat, so we still do need an in-between. So I can test that out. But it just needs a little bit of kind of a push through here. Let's see, what's the shape we're going for here? So it drags through, and then as it's falling through, the top of the hair is going to start to straighten as the bottom of the hair kind of kicks through. So we're starting to get that form. So I'm just kind of experimenting with line shapes. Eventually we want to go into that straight there. So it's gonna swing through, and then the base is going to reverse direction right there. So that starts to reverse. The rest pulls through. Yeah, so I think that's kind of the shape I should be going for right there. So right here, let's try to get that in there. Which is going to be just a little bit more of this form. And then here, we're going to just move this over. And let's settle the hair a little slower right here. Get that kind of reversal to something a little bit more like that. Okay, let's see how that feels. There you go. That feels better. Is it perfect? No. But we got to experiment with all sorts of different ways of overlapping this hair and then think our way through it very quickly. Versus dealing with 9 different controls. Like, look at all the hair controls that we would have to work with, and trying to shape it and pose it, and oh wait, that didn't work. Delete those keys, move on, move on, move on. I don't like that personally. Like, to me, it's a waste of time to fight a rig when you could just plan it out in 2D. And you can see my drawing skills are not wonderful. It's not like I'm drawing out the hair beautifully. The proportions are changing. It's all weird. But I get the idea. At this point, let's just match the hair. So I'm going to turn off the ghosting here. And let's see. I'm working on a Nickelodeon project. Nice, congrats. And we talked earlier about 2's animation. I finished primary animation with full detailed with hair animation 2. What I'm supposed to do in secondary animation. We're working in 2's, including lip sync. So secondary motion or secondary animation is things like cloth. So cloth, hair, it's basically overlapping action or motion that is dependent on something else. So for example, this tie here, we're going to be working on that. Unless the character is actually interacting with it and like doing something with it, like I'm doing with my shirt here, it's just secondary motion. It's a motion that comes from the original source. So hair, if I had, what do I have on my desk here that could work? Well, I've got, let's see, my little finger glove here. So this thing here, as I'm moving my hand, you can see how it's just whipping around. Well, that's secondary motion. It's just moving based on my hand motion. It would be things like characters' ears, like a dog. If you're animating a dog and they've got big floppy ears, that's going to be secondary motion. There's going to be moments where they might control their ears, but most of the time it's just overlap. And that's not to say secondary motion is overlap. Secondary motion is motion that is derived from something else. So there's a difference between those two. Sometimes, like those ears, they will have moments where they move and kind of, oh, listen, but they're still based on the core motion that was built off of. So secondary animation is just going through and making sure you go through all of those different little things. So let's go through the hair here, and I'm just going to match my drawings. Now, let's see. I don't know if this has the ability to get just a little fainter. Let's see. References. I want to see if I can just tone down the opacity for it. I don't think it has. Not that that's a huge issue, but it just makes it easier to view. If you don't have that, well, I can just zoom in. Also, because the hair is gray, or sorry, like the hair is a darker color, I'm just going to change the background so we can see that a little bit more clearly. Okay, so let's kind of push this here. The hair is stiff, so it's not going to have like a big pose change here. It's not going to be like the hair is waving around. As she's dipping down here, that form, that S shape of the hair, it's basically just going to stay the way it is. So we kind of go down here. Look at your shot from the side view as well. So you can see here how the head is tilting. That means the hair is going to tip backwards here. It's going to want to point down to the ground. So as we're animating this, I want to make sure that we're animating this from all angles. Okay, let's kind of skip ahead to this frame and actually make sure I set a key on all the hair. Comes through. Okay, so let's pose this out. The hair is going to be coming out this way, but we also have the arm to think of. So it's going to come back and get pushed over by this arm. I want this interaction to happen here. I could just let it stay stiff, but when you push, the hair does wrap around. Gaming car, hello! Welcome, hope you're doing well. So now we get that impact there with the hair. It's not like it's going to be a huge impact, but I still want to make sure I think about it. At this point, the hair is going to wrap around just a little bit more. Let's shape that middle section here just a little bit. Something a little bit more like so. Okay, that feels pretty good. There is a breakdown right here that I'm gonna have to put in. So let's just quickly get that in there. So the hair is essentially just going to go down a little bit. And let's add just a little bit more drag up here. So we're starting to change that form just a little bit from the side view. Okay. Do we have to set a key for each frame? No, not at all. I'm doing this because there's kind of this impact, but normally when I'm animating hairs, I'll go every 4 frames and then just so just go every 4 frames, spline it, and then wherever I need a little bit more detail, I'll put more keys there. You don't have to go every single frame. The only reason I'm doing it here, instead of doing every 4 frames, I'm kind of doing 2s and 4s and 3s, is because this animation is going to be in stepped mode. So I need to make sure I've got those keys in there. So here the hair is going to get still pushed by the arm, also pushed by the back here. So let's make sure that this is where animating this hair is going to really be nice, is now we're starting to get the silhouette back into the character. Am I missing a control there? Yes, I am. Okay, pull that up here so that the body is nice and visible. And let's bring that back down. Okay, so I'm just kind of shaping the hair right now just to get the silhouette of the body through. And then from there, let's actually shape the hair the way we want. So I'm looking at the arm here, see how it's getting covered in the hair? A little bit is fine because it creates the feeling that the hair is wrapping around, just like my hair can do here. But I don't want to go so far that we're starting to clip through like this. Then the hair here is going to still wrap around the arm. Excuse me. Okay, so push that shape of the hair a little bit more here. Try to get that round shape there. And then watch it from the side view. See how the hair is not even touching right there? That's going to be a little weird. So let's bring that back down just a bit. Start shaping that. I don't want to be too picky about the hair shape here, but I do want to get that weight of the hair as she pushes I want it to feel like it's wrapping around that arm. And then this is a little too much there, but in order for the body to work correctly, we're gonna have to push this out. Okay, so we've got that. Let's go to the next frame. I don't want to spend too much time on this because the more time I spend, I might be doing something wrong. Like, there's... Just because I already animated and kind of got into place doesn't mean that all of this is perfect. Based on the hair design and the rig itself, I might have to change a lot on this and make kind of bigger changes, bigger decisions. So I want to try and animate this quickly and then make changes to it versus taking my time, getting every pose absolutely perfect, and then finding that out that, oops, it doesn't work at all. So we have to do the whole thing over again. So try to go fairly fast on this. Don't be too precious about each single pose. Okay. Now, one thing I kind of want to get a little bit here, which I didn't really get in my posing, is I want that hair to flare out. So this is one of those things with hair, is hair doesn't just stay in like a clump and just move like this. Hair is going to flare and narrow. So for example, something like this, where suddenly this is much wider than it was at the beginning. Now, would this make sense for this moment? Not really, but I can exaggerate it a little bit. So I'm going to try that just a little. And then try to push that flow right through. Maybe let's get a little bit more of this control in. Okay. So something like that. Okay, so notice here how as we're going through, the hair is kind of popping out there. That's something I'm gonna have to fix here. Does it make a huge difference? Not really, because we're not gonna see that from our camera angle, but I still, like I said, I want to make sure that I'm not just cheating the hair the whole time. We do get that big bump right in there, but that's because of the clavicle pushing through. But what we can do is, because there was that big bump, we can kind of keep the hair kind of and overlap it this way. Get that extra little swish of the hair backwards. So now I'm kind of doing, I'm matching my poses, but I'm also doing a little bit of straight ahead animation here. Okay. So something like that. For hairs, oh wait, we can add breathing in this shot. We could. It doesn't really need it, but it wouldn't be a bad thing to add. Okay. So it comes up here. I think I can maybe curl this in around a little bit more this way. Just a little. Okay. Getting too precious on the poses here. So let's go forward. Now the hair is going to start to overlap. So this section is going to come out a little bit more. This section is still going to drag. Maybe try to push this in a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more forward. So trying to get that nice silhouette in there so we get that continual motion. Let's get this one to straighten out. That's going to get that depth in there. So I'm watching that shape And then this one is going to start coming through. Maybe drag a little bit more up here. Okay. We'll go on. We'll start going a little faster on this just to see about getting all the shapes in there. And Lucas, hello. Let's see. But someone created an Azula rig. Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out. That would be cool with the Aang rig. Nice. Look at that. That's cool looking. That one and the Aang rig will be fun to animate together. Nice. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I'll have to check it out after this. See, this is like how to put this. I get asked a lot, like, is Blender ever going to like beat out Maya in terms of animation? And honestly, I do feel like Blender is going to be a huge contender in just the industry and like the VFX animation world. It is such a good program. So good. But the one thing it doesn't have is all of the rigs. Like every week or every other week, Maya has a new rig that is just like, oh, here it is, totally free. Feel free to use it. And it's just like, whoa, that's awesome. It's the one big thing that Blender is missing right now. The moment that they kind of get a really good collection of rigs and kind of this community of riggers that really know what they're doing, that Blender is going to be unstoppable. Until then, it's hard to kind of recommend Blender like, oh yeah, you can, or I shouldn't say that. No, it's easy to recommend Blender. Blender is awesome. But in terms of like a demo reel and showcasing your skills and kind of learning as an animator, having access to all of these rigs and all of these options is just so nice. And it feels like every animation I do, I could just pick a new rig and do something different versus having to stick to the same rigs or hope for a rig that works decently. So just something to keep in mind. Does it mean that you shouldn't use Blender? Not at all. Blender, like I said, is an amazing program. It is really good. If anything, I wish I would use Blender more because it is such a fun program. And their grease pencil tool, oh, it's so cool. It just needs those extra rigs. And then, man, it's going to be so cool to animate in there. And a few of the animation tools. But I hear they're making a really cool animation update soon. So that won't be too much of an issue in the near future. Okay, we've got that. Let's set a key on the hair here. I should make a hotkey just to set the key on the hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my script editor. Oops, that's not script editor. Okay, so let that load, and while that's happening, I use Anim School Picker, but when I import any rig, the controllers are not connected to the picker. I'm not sure. I don't use the Anim School Picker. If the controls aren't connected, usually there's a namespace you have to set. So there should be a button like set namespace, but some sort of set namespace button. Look for that. Basically, what's happening is when you open up your rig, especially if it's referenced, the namespace is what is going to control which controls are selectable. So what you want to do is set the namespace to your current selection. So look for that button. There should be some namespace thing or an option somewhere. So just to explain what I did here is I selected all the hair and then I set a key and then I just copied the script right there. So select all the controls, set keyframe on all the controls, and then I middle mouse dragged it onto my shelf. And now I have a button right here, which is going to set a key on all of my hair controls right there. And then if I wanted to, let's actually push this even further. So open up my script editor. I don't know why it takes so long recently. But I can set it so it'll also deselect the hair. So essentially in Maya, this is one of my favorite features of Maya. I don't know if Blender has an equivalent to this. I'm sure it must. But whichever program you're using, doing something like this can be very helpful. If you know that you're repeating a similar action very often. So for example, I'm always selecting all the hair, setting a key, and then deselecting it so that I have this nice clean selection. What I can do is just copy all of that script. Now I don't want this result here, so I'm just going to create a new Mel tab down here. Middle mouse drag it in there, delete this result, don't need that. And then take this, middle mouse drag it into my shelf. So I can even edit the script that I want. Now, whenever I need to set a key, let's say I want to set a key on all the hair here. Click this button, there you go. Everything is keyed, I'm ready to keep animating. So I don't have to continually try to do all of that myself. Making quick little scripts like that, it's really nice and useful. You don't have to go super in depth. You don't have to make this one of those things where, okay, have to make a ton of scripts and have to save them all forever and ever. No, basically, once I'm done animating the hair for this shot, I'm going to delete that script. Don't need to use it again. But at least for the moment, I've got it, and it's going to help me animate a little faster. Let's reset the hair here, just so we can start building this from scratch a little bit more. So here I want to get this drag. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get this shape with the hair rig that we have. So we'll have to just do the best that we can. So let's bring that hair back as well. So that's going to help. Always think of this in 3D space. So if you're not thinking of this in 3D space, you're going to have issues where things won't match up correctly. So for example, the hair, she's going forward, so her hair is going to drag back. If I'm just trying to match a silhouette from the camera view, it's not going to really work because I need that depth of the hair. That's what's going to help me get that silhouette. So just be very aware of this. I see a lot of people when they're starting to animate, they get caught on the camera angle. So like they're looking at their shot camera only, and it really messes up their work because they're missing out on a lot of the elements that are actually going to make the shot work. So always just be aware of that. Okay, I want this round form down there. And then let's round this out. So something like this. Okay. Set a key. Now another thing I can do, once again, we can make controls that make our life a little easier. I need to reset these controls quite often in all of the hair on the back there. So I can just select all of these right through here, make sure they're all selected. There we go. And then open up the script editor. Usually it's a little faster than this, but oh well. So let this load up. And essentially what I want to do is I want to make a script that's just going to zero it out. Now, I could just make a script that'll select just those, and then I can zero them out manually, but if I can just hit one button and then do that, that'll be great. So here's our selection. Zero out the rotations. And let's find the script that I need. So it's auto keying all of this. I don't really need to do that, but I just need this. So set attributes. So we'll go through, copy all of that. So select and then set the attributes. Let's put that in there. And then let's just test this. So our hair is there. Boop, reset. So now I can very quickly reset the hair, start animating from there. So essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work smart and try to speed up my process whenever I can. I don't need to do it. It's not going to make or break my shot. It's not going to it's not going to ruin my animation if I don't do this. Honestly, there's not going to be too much of a difference whether I do it or not. But if I can do it and speed up my workflow so I'm not wasting time selecting controls and all of that stuff, then why not? See, how do you find any script you want? Is there any trick? If you're doing something like this where you want to repeat a command, you just open up the script editor, run the command, and you'll see what happens in the script editor. And then you can just copy that script. So it's really just finding it right through there. The script editor is a really handy tool. I actually don't see a lot of people using it a lot of times, especially students. It's kind of this, I wouldn't say forgotten tool, but it's daunting. It's like, oh, the script editor? I'm not doing a scripting, I'm animating. Which is true. But the script editor shows you the behind the scenes of what Maya is doing. And when you can use that to your advantage, you can get some really cool time-saving elements in there. So I highly recommend checking it out. Okay. Right here, the hair is dragging a little bit in a way I don't like. And this is because the length of the hair is different than what I drew. So my drawings aren't matching up quite correctly. So I'm just going to push this a little bit more. Okay, so something like that. Okay. Now here, once again, let's reset that hair. So we'll set a key, reset the hair. You can see how much faster that is compared to trying to do it all manually every single time. Let's push this curve here. I kind of want to make this a little rounder than I had before. So let's round that out and then make sure the hair is kind of draping here and getting pushed by the arm. Okay. So something like that. Get that nice curve in there. And maybe just a little further back. Okay. So something like that. Let's shape it. Especially that middle control. See how it's dipping in there? That's just weird. So shape that hair, try to get that nice flow through the whole thing. Going into wireframe is super helpful. Whenever you're doing stuff like this and the controls are getting hidden, go into wireframe. It makes your life easier. Or if you have the GUI picker, which I still haven't had time to try and get the GUI picker working on this rig, that can also help a lot. This is where GUI pickers really come in handy, is these situations where the controls are starting to get hidden within the geometry. So you can very easily just go through and just find them right through there. Let's see. Let's go through here. And Roswellek, I can take a look at that. I'll try to get the hair done here first, and then I'll see if we can take a look at that shot there. So I kind of want a little bit more mass here. But as she turns, see how the line of the hair right there kind of feels a little stiff. It just stays the same. I don't want that. So I'm going to try and add a little bit more drag in there, so we feel this change in the line. So something like that. It's pointing kind of this angle, and now it's a little straighter right there. Or yeah, let's try doing something a little different. Okay, so just making sure that hair doesn't feel like it locks in place, essentially. Okay, now this hair here is going to drag a little bit more. And then same thing here. So drag through, make sure I'm not cutting through the arm or anything like that. That's always important. Okay. Dude. Let's see if we can shape the hair. I kind of want a little, so I'm looking at the silhouette of the bits of the hair at the end, the pointy bits. I'm just trying to get a nice kind of flow in those as well. You don't necessarily have to, but I always, if I'm able to, it just feels nicer. Okay. So we'll go with something like that for now. I kind of want this to be a little higher right here. So what I'm looking at is the line of the hair, the way it goes down, and then here it's popping back up. This frame should be lower, I feel. So the point of the hair here should be at its lowest there, and here it should still be kind of pointed upwards. So we get this kind of, that little flip of the hair here. Just a little. This song is weird. Okay. Get that nice flip in the hair there. Still could be a little higher here, so I'm just going to add a little bit more drag right there. So essentially just shaping that hair so it comes through and then down. And let's see if we can get this a little further down here. Yeah, so something like that. It'll add a little bit more weight to the hair. Keep going forward. I don't think I need to reset the hair here. It's just going to be shaping a little bit. Get a little bit more drag. Basically just like that. And you can see how my drawings don't match up anymore. Like I drew it way too long. That's fine, as long as I get the overall flow. That's the important bit. Okay. Here I'm going to reset the hair, just because this is going to be straightening it all out as the stretch happens here. So let's just drag it back. Okay. Maybe just round it out a little bit. Let's see there. I'm just trying to see if I can get an interesting shape to the hair here. So pull that out and then, whoop. Too much. Maybe just a little bit. So I want to get a better silhouette right by the ear. So something like that. Let's just do that. Coming through. Set a key again on the hair. Let's reset it. And now we really shape it. Get that nice round form in there. One thing I'm going to do as a second pass is I'm just going to look at the hair from the side view here and then try to kind of straight ahead animate it so that it makes sense a little bit more. So for example here, this isn't making sense, it's popping back, so I would bring that forward there and then reshape it. I want to make sure that the hair kind of makes sense first in terms of the animation, or like it works, and then from there I can spend my time like fine-tuning it. If I spend my time fine-tuning it right now, I'm wasting time, especially if, oh, it doesn't work. Well, why did I spend so much time trying to shape all the hair early on then, if none of it is working? So just be aware of where you're putting in your time and what's important and what's not. You don't want to animate in a way where you're just skipping things for no reason other than just like, I'm gonna save time, I'm not gonna animate that, haha. Okay, yeah, you're gonna save time, but if you're just not animating it because you don't want to, that's not usually gonna be great, because a lot of times you're gonna need to animate it, especially like hips. Like if your character is framed up, so let's say a shot like this, I've seen a lot of people go, I don't have to animate the hips or the legs, I'll just leave them totally alone and just do the upper body. No, the hips have to move. If you have a dancing shot, and even though we don't see the hips, they have to move. Otherwise the character is not going to work. So you need to put that animation in there, but it doesn't mean that you have to polish it up and animate every tiny little detail. The foot positions and the foot placements, you don't need to worry about, but you still need to think about it. And same thing with the hair. I'm not trying to be lazy and just get out of animating it. I'm just trying to be very conscious of, does this really need to be animated at this specific moment? And can I put my time into something a little bit more important? So always try to be conscious of your time and how you can be more efficient with it. Okay, set a key. Those shortcuts make animating so much more fun. One of the most annoying things when animating is when you're stuck doing all the little minutia, like always doing the same script over and over, or sorry, not script, the same like 2 or 3 actions over and over and over again. That gets very tedious. So to be able to have a script or some sort of button hotkey that just saves you time, it's really nice. I highly recommend like trying to find those little time saver workflows. Okay. Here the hair is going to billow out. I just want to get that a little bit more because it's going to affect the silhouette of the hair back here. Yeah, so I definitely didn't draw that shape the way it should have. It should have this curve right here, which is good. I can get that in there. Okay, we've just got a few more poses. So now the hair is going to come through and start dropping. Let's reset the hair. This song makes me think of Spyro. Is it Spyro? No. I need some Spyro music. That would be nice. Let's see. In ice dancing, the skaters do fast rotations. How do you animate that rotation? You just spin your character. So the main thing that you want to do is find controls that will help you make that easier. Specifically, it's going to be which space are the arms in. So, for example, if you're animating an IK, that means the hand's just going to stay still as the body moves. And that's going to be annoying because as you spin the body, then you have to move the arm, and then spin the body and move the arm. You want to set the attributes that would make it so that you just spin the body and everything moves together. That way you can animate a lot of quick spins and you're not having to keep the arms in line and the head in line. You're just spinning the character and then done. So that's the biggest thing here. So for example, on this character, I don't have the body controls visible. On this character, the head has the orient attribute right there. Essentially what that means is as I rotate the character, see how the head keeps pointing in one direction? Even if I spin the character, the head points in the same direction. I would want to switch that so that the head follows the body. That way I'm just moving the one control, the spin control, and then done. And this rig is free. I can actually get you the link for it here. Give me 1 second. Just have to find it. Yeah, so this rig is totally free. I highly recommend it. It's a really great rig. There's the link. If you can, I would definitely recommend just giving like $1. The rigger has mentioned that they are hoping to do more characters in this style. So just giving a little bit of money, it'll help kind of give them that incentive and the cash to put the time into a new rig. I highly recommend it. It's a fun rig. What I really like about it is it's very light. So for example, I don't even have cached playback turned on. And if I hit play, I'm getting about 24 frames per second. Now that I'm animating the hair and we're starting to get the grease pencil, I'm starting to lose frames. But so far, I've been getting over 24 frames per second playback in the viewport in Maya, which is awesome. So not only is it a really great rig. It's nice and light and just works really well. Yeah, always support great artists. Exactly. One of my favorite things is supporting artists and just like showing. It's weird how a lot of artists, they do such great work, but no one ever really goes up to them and goes, "Hey, great work. I really appreciate your stuff." And it really makes their day. I noticed that at CTN a lot, where so CTN, for anyone who doesn't know, is a animation convention back when conventions happened. And Cameron and I would just go around the convention floor, and we just liked talking to artists and talking to people there. And one thing that we noticed was that a lot of artists, people would buy their stuff, but no one would actually like just tell them, "Hey, I really like your work. It really makes my day to see your drawings or your animations and this and that." And we would tell them that, and it just to see them smile and go, "Oh, thank you." Like you could see that it meant something to them to hear that someone liked their work, and that they appreciated their work. So as much as I can, I try to boost up artists, like be vocally thankful for their work. Okay, so I'm just trying to shape the hair here a little bit. We'll get into the fine detail shaping in a little bit, but get a little bit in there. Okay, set another key. Almost there. So let's get this in here. Would hair simulation achieve a similar quality result to what you're doing right now? Yeah, hair simulation would work. Since this rig doesn't have hair that can be simulated, you kind of have to do it by hand. Now, there are tools that would allow you to overlap this or like just with a plugin. So there's an overlapper plugin you could use. I actually, just as a test before the stream, I did try to use the plugin, and I'll show the plugin in a little bit. But the problem with that is it's very reliant on the animation, for one. It's reliant on the rig. So what I mean by that, let me clarify those. So reliant on the animation. I'm animating this in stepped mode. Most VFX tools don't work unless you're animating on ones. So if you're animating in kind of the step mode 2D method, the physics simulations aren't going to work. They're just going to mess up. So I would have to animate this shot on ones, then set it back to a stepped mode in order for that to work correctly. Is that a bad thing? No, not at all. But it's an extra step that I would have to do. In terms of being reliant on the rig, well, this hair is really well rigged, but it doesn't move in a kind of predictable way. So for example, like when I bend this bottom piece of hair here, you would expect it to just affect the lower half, but it's also changing the entire silhouette of the upper half there as well. You can see right there, which means that as it's simulating, it's depending on how it's rigged, it could get some really weird results. Whereas if I do it by hand, I have full control over the exact shape I want. Typically, simulation works best when you are dealing with actual like hair strands and like actual hair. A rig like this with kind of this blocky hair, not all the time, but in general, it's going to be better to do it in a more like by hand method. Okay. trying to get the shape of this hair. So this is one of those moments where if I was doing this with the simulation, trying to get this specific shape of the hair could really mess up. So I'm gonna just try to get it as much as I can. And essentially what I want is this to drag back here, up. So we get that curve right in there. Yeah, so something like that. Okay. Now, let's keep going. Reset the hair. I have a long mustache on my character for my short movie that needs simulation. It's the worst. Oh, mustaches are horrible. Any facial hair, like beards and stuff, simulation is hard enough, but at least most of the hair is on a skull. It's like you've just got skull here. There's nothing that moves. It's just there. So all it needs to do is overlap. When you are dealing with something like a mustache, suddenly it's on a part of the face that moves a lot and it's bouncing around. And hey, Matthew Samoda, thank you so much for the sub. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And hey, I hope you're having great weather in Brazil. Hopefully it's not too warm there. I have some friends in Brazil, and the last time I talked to them, they were saying it was getting pretty warm. Still cold in Canada, so where's the warmth? But thank you so much. I really appreciate that. What was I talking about before? I totally lost my train of thought. Mustaches, yeah. So mustaches are tricky because they're on a part of the face that it just moves around a lot. So you have to be very, what would be the right word? Conscious of how it's going to shape and like simulate. See, 37 degrees. Oh yeah, that's pretty warm. Yeah, that's getting a little too hot for me. I like heat. I like warmth, but it can't get too warm. I'm not built for that. I'm much better with the cold. Right now, I think, what temperature is it? Yesterday, I think it just barely got over 32. What temperature is it now? Let's see. Check my phone. Right now, it's 6 degrees Celsius. So, warm. It's actually, that's like t-shirt weather. Nice and toasty. Let's see. 25 in Brazil. Okay, that's a nice temperature. 25, that's usually, at least for me, like that's a comfy temperature, as long as it's not humid. Okay, they're just trying to get the shape in here. Okay, we've got 2 more poses. The last pose is going to be easy. Essentially, it's just going to be straighten it out. Okay, so get that in there. Really push this rotation here, so get that overlapping sense. So again, this is where this hair is very hard to simulate, because in order to get that bend in here, it's not the middle control that I need to use, it's the bottom control. So this would be very hard to simulate, simply because the controls aren't really working the way hair would. Does it make it a bad rig? No. It's actually a really good rig, because I do have that power to shape everything. but it's very specific in the way I have to shape it. So just be careful with things like that. Okay, one last pose. Let's get that in there. And then we can start refining the hair a little bit more. Cold is not suitable for us, yeah. For me, like -20, that's nice. Like as long as there's no wind, -20 it's actually pretty comfy. -15, especially after winter, -15, -10, like that's t-shirts and shorts. At least in spring. As soon as it gets to fall, when it starts to cool down, then it gets to like 10 degrees Celsius and it's like, well, big winter coats, get ready. All of that getting used to the cold is gone. It is always weird. Like in spring, you suddenly get one sunny day and it's -15. Outside, shorts, sandals, t-shirt. It's like, oh, just so comfortable. So much fun. In fall, it goes down to like +10 and sweaters, winter coat, hot cocoa next to the fire. And it's like, it's freezing. What's going on? It's the end of the world. It's terrible. Build up so much resistance to the cold for all to just go away. Okay, let's get that a little bit closer there. I'm actually surprised by how close my drawings were in terms of the hair. Like, it's not perfect. Definitely not. But overall, like when I pose out the hair in 3/4, it's actually matching up pretty close. So, yay. That's always a nice feeling when the hair you drew kind of works with all the posing. I've had many times when it didn't, where I draw out the hair and then it still helps you get a start in your animation, but then you start to actually animate the hair and it's like, oh yeah, that definitely messed up. Okay. So let's see how it looks, and we're gonna turn off our grease pencil tool here. See how this feels. We're talking about Celsius in terms of temperature. Only for Canadians, that's comfy. In -15, people are inside their houses under the blanket shivering. That's like fall. When it's in winter is just beginning. -15, all bundled up, trying to stay warm. Spring me, yeah, t-shirts. I've shoveled the entire driveway, like just getting the snow out, in t-shirts and shorts and sandals in the spring, just because it's finally warm again. It was so nice. So let's take a look at this hair and see how it feels. It's probably going to be really rough, and there's going to be a lot of things to tweak. But hey, actually not too bad. I feel like it kind of plateaus right there. It kind of feels like it's a little flat right here. So I need to push the shape of it there. But overall, not too bad. Even from the 3/4, it's working pretty well. Same thing. It's like right in that section right there. It just kind of feels flat between these two frames. Actually, did I forget to pose it out? Maybe. It doesn't seem like it's changing. +15, I'm not going outside. Yeah, temperature is one of those weird things. It's amazing how the human body gets used to certain temperatures. Although I don't know if I'd ever get used to heat. Like, for me, as soon as it starts to get like into the 30s, I can't, my body can't handle it. It's just too much heat, especially humid heat is just like, no, I'm ready to die. It's just, my body wants to shut down. I'd much rather deal with the cold. At least with the cold, for me, you can dress up for it. That's the big thing. If it gets cold, we have the coats, we have the blankets, we have all sorts of things like that. You can drink warm drinks. When it gets hot, all you can do is suffer. so it flips here. This is good. I kind of wish I could get a little bit more roundness in here. Yeah, something more, yeah, along those lines. Get that nice flip in that hair pose. So at this point, I'm shaping more than anything else. Just trying to get the form of the hair and the volume of the hair. So I'm trying to get this nice big shape right in here. Just like that. And then here, let's try to keep pushing that a little bit more. Okay. 31 right now. Yeah, that's evening 31. No. I can't. Evening is supposed to cool down. That's too warm for the evening. People have asked me if I ever wanted to visit Florida. Well, like especially for Disney World and all of that. And I would love to. I would love to just visit all sorts of places around the world. But when they talk about the temperatures there and the humidity, it's like I would die. I feel like I would literally just die from the temperatures there. Humid heat is the absolute. Growing up in Tennessee, summer was basically drowning in boiling water. Yeah. It's kind of the same here in Manitoba. It gets really cold in winter, and then in summer it gets super humid because there's just so many lakes everywhere, and it's so bad. Okay. Go through. Feels like we could use a little bit more drag here. And let's actually shape this. The problem is this curl right here. That's what's throwing me off. It needs to still... It's going to round out back here. So let me draw this out. Show you what I'm looking for. So what I'm trying to do is... I'm trying to think of the line weight. So right here, see how the curve is kind of feeling like it's pressing in at that point? On the next point, I want it to feel like it's lower down, right here. So we're feeling that shift in the line weight of the hair. And the rotation before, when it was doing this, it was destroying that line weight. So I'm trying to exaggerate that, make it feel like the hair is being pushed down. And this is actually one of the things that Cameron taught me. And I forget where he learned this. I think it was online somewhere. Is when you're animating hair and you want to create the sense of overlap, just think of a sphere going past a line. So if I just think of, let's say, a line right here, this could be the strand of hair. Just imagine a sphere going through it. So let's see here. Bring in my timeline. And I should actually do this on 2 separate layers. I'm just going to do this super quick. And I don't use Clip Studio to animate very often, so I apologize if this is going to be super rough. Actually, no, instead of doing it in Clip Studio, I could do it in Maya. So let's just create a polygon sphere. This way I don't have to worry about animating a sphere in Clip Studio. My worst fear. A sphere. It's a sphere. Ugh, that was terrible. So let's bring this through and we'll just do 10 frames. So we'll have this come through and make sure it's set to auto tangents here. So let's say you have this. When you're thinking of hair and how to animate hair, think of a... It was a bad joke. It was terrible. It was bad and I should feel bad. So imagine you have a strand of hair or any object. This works for any overlap. You just want to imagine this as if a sphere is pushing through it. So it's going to push through, kind of drag back right here. Keep going. I should have done this on 2s. Why did I decide to do this on 1s? So you can just kind of do this, and we'll do a few more frames here. So something like that. Okay, so now all I have to do is hide the sphere, and let's actually make sure the sphere stays hidden. I'll just delete it. So where's my sphere? There we go. So now we have overlap and this kind of billowing feeling in there, just like that. And you're just imagining this sphere pushing through this object. Will you clip this hair animation using a sphere reference? No. I'm just thinking of the sphere. So for example, here, where was it? Like right through there? That's what I'm kind of imagining. Like you have that sphere pushing through here, and then as it comes down, it's going to be pushing lower. Now you can, if you wanted to, you could use spheres to do that. For CG hair, like rigged hair like this, oftentimes that's kind of trickier. And Animated Paul, hey, thank you so much for the sub. Oh, 19 months? Jeez, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Great content as always. Have you ever experienced a very slow start to a new shot? Do you have any advice on how to overcome this? Yes, many, many times. I have had many slow starts to shots, and for many different reasons. So slow starts can happen in a lot of different ways. It can be a slow start in the sense of you're just not inspired by the shot. It could be a slow start in the sense that you're trying to block it out, but nothing's working, and it just feels like it's almost like you're animating and it's always one step forward, 2 steps back. So you'll try something and that doesn't work, and then you're never pushing forward. That can happen. Slow starts in animation can be you're trying to animate and it just, the appeal isn't there. So it's progressing, but it doesn't feel like it's interesting to look at. That even like right from the start, it's like, it's okay. And there's all sorts of other reasons. So yes, I've definitely dealt with a lot of slow starts to shots and animations. Let's see, what would be the biggest advice I can give on that? Yeah, and the first pose, agreed, Mr. Johan. The first pose is almost always going to be very slow. That's just kind of animation in general, is that first pose takes time. So we have to be very conscious of that. Now, for me, when I experience kind of these slow starts or these kind of moments of like, it's just not working out, there's a few different things that I'll try to do. Most of it is taking a step back and trying to refocus on the basics of the shot. So let's start with the first example, which was so actually I forget which order I said these. Well, let's just use this example. So we're animating and it's always 2 steps, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It never feels like you're making progress. Well, usually when that happens, that is a result of we don't really have enough of a plan in our shot. We think we have a plan. We're trying to push the plan forward, but really we're just kind of fighting the whole animation the entire time. And you're going to try something, it doesn't work. Try something else, doesn't work. Try something else, doesn't work. It gets very tedious very quickly. So often I will just go back into the planning phase. If I'm struggling with getting these motions to read correctly, let's replan it. Let's go back and figure out what it is that I'm not getting. And I will literally just reshoot reference. I will go back to the first pass of animation and try to understand the shot before I continue trying to animate the shot. And it oftentimes, especially when you're first starting out, for anyone who's a student here and just starting animation, this is going to feel very demoralizing because you're having to restart. You're really going like a step backwards here. But that's not a bad thing. That's basically just making sure that you understand your shot and that you want to get a clear focus on it. So don't be afraid of taking that step back and just going, okay, this didn't work. Let's revisit everything and make sure I understand the motions, the acting, whatever it is that you're doing. You want to have that strong understanding of it. Okay. What happens when you're animating and you're just not getting that appeal that you want in your shot? It's just, you're trying, but no matter what, it's just not feeling good. What do you do? Well, for me, what I like to do is I will start doing master studies. I love master studies. So if I'm having trouble, let's say for a shot like this, before I even did this shot, I just went through and I looked at a whole bunch of old anime that I've watched or that I've seen clips of. So I looked at like, what was it? I looked at Sailor Moon. I looked at Card Captors because like they have really cute designs in there. I looked at Ranma. I looked at a whole bunch. Full Metal Alchemist. Okay, how do they pose out the characters? How do they pose out the eyes? How do they do the mouths? I did that and I just analyzed what makes those work. So then when I started using this rig, I have something to base it off of. If you're doing a Disney style shot and it's like, I keep trying to get these poses and nothing's working. I'm trying to pose out the face and it's never appealing. Take a step back and look at your favorite Disney film. Maybe you're trying to do like a princess, or the character you're using is kind of a princess style. So look at Rapunzel, look at all of these Disney princesses, like Wreck-It Ralph. There's that scene of all the princesses in the back room there. Just look at how they make those faces really nice and appealing. And then either try to incorporate those into your shot, those poses, or try to do some master studies where you just, okay, let's open a quick new scene and I'm just going to do some quick pose tests on this character and see if you can recapture that same feeling in your rig. So that helps a lot for me. Whenever I feel kind of stuck on a pose or on an animation and it's just like I can't get it, doing some master studies and trying to figure out how someone else got that really good appeal, it just really helps me. So doing something like that. What else? You can have those slow starts where you're just not feeling motivated. You're just trying to work on it, and it's like you just can't get into it. You can't get into the flow of your animation. That I get into a lot, honestly. There will be days where I don't really feel like animating. I don't feel like sitting in front of my computer for the next who knows how many hours, like what we're doing here, readjusting hair frame by frame, just trying to get an interesting hair silhouette. It's like, wow, what fun. I could be doing so many other things. Or like, there's just times when you don't want to be in front of the computer. That's totally normal. So in times like that, what I will try to do is for me, it's my brain wants to do multiple things at once, which is kind of annoying. So I'm going to try and find something that will occupy my brain. So when I'm working, I like to listen to music. So this is why on these streams we have all this video game music. Video game music keeps my brain kind of active as I'm working. It lets me focus on something else and kind of stop my brain from, what would be the right word? Just losing track of what I'm supposed to be doing, I guess you could say. So for me, that helps a lot. But it could be something like, okay, you're just going to start animating. Maybe put your favorite TV show or movie on the screen, or just listen to it. Something you've seen before, something that's not going to distract you. So it's not like you're listening to it and you have to pay attention, but something that, yeah, you know by heart. Maybe it's like, for me, it would be something like Back to the Future or Star Wars. Like I know those films front to back. When I was a student at Animation Mentor, it was Wreck-It Ralph. I would just put that on and just listen to it. And that kept me occupied in the sense that my brain had something to focus on instead of just getting lost in the mundane, or like staying active in the animation. So for me, that helped a lot. But it can be anything like that. You try to find the way that helps you to focus more. For a while, when I was working on one specific project, it was just very tedious. There was a lot of just, what would be the right word? It wasn't bad in any way. It's just one of those projects where you're animating nothing. You're just animating very basic motions, and it's boring. We'll put it that way. What I ended up doing was I just made sure I took a lot of breaks. So I would go through and I would always make sure that every 20 minutes I took a break. I would get away from my computer and just kind of step away. This is the Pomodoro technique. And that helped a lot for me. Because essentially what it does is it breaks up that monotony of just like, okay, gotta animate. And just more and more animation. And you're just going and going and going and going. It made it into these bite-sized chunks, which were much more manageable and kind of fun to work in. So that helped a lot on that project. I don't use it that often nowadays, but it was still very helpful. So trying to find little things like that can be very helpful. So it's exploring those things and kind of knowing yourself. Everyone's a little different. Some people I know cannot work with music. Absolutely cannot. Some people I know work with listening to streams, like listening to Twitch streams and working while they just listen to someone else work. I can't do that personally because I get too invested. I get, oh, what are they doing now? I want to watch and I want to pay attention. I can't break my attention away properly, and when I start animating, I'm so distracted. So I can't do that, unfortunately, as much as I would love to, because there's a lot of Twitch streamers where it's like they're always streaming when I'm working, and it's like, oh, if only I could break up that focus there. What else can you do? Yeah, there's so many different things, and the big thing is it's very personal to you. What's going to be the best thing for you? And like one of the worst pieces of advice, as much as I love it, the Animator Survival Kit is one of the greatest books in terms of learning animation. It's really, really good. But one of the worst pieces of advice that you're going to hear in animation is that as you're animating, you should be 100% focused on animation. Don't listen to music. Don't do that. You need to be 100% focused on that. And that piece of information comes from a conversation with Milt Kahl, who said that when he's animating, he can't focus on anything else. He has to be focused on what he's doing, which is great for him. But the problem is that in the book, they basically frame that piece of advice as don't listen to music while you work. And it shouldn't be phrased like that. It's do what you need in order to stay focused in animation. Milt Kahl couldn't listen to music. That's what he had to do. Not everyone's like that. So do what you need. Don't worry about what works for someone else. That's great that it works for them. If it doesn't work for you, no worries. Find the thing that will make you productive and explore. Enjoy that exploration process. Okay, I think we finally got the hair. Here we go. Now I just need to double check that I have keys on all of the frames. Yeah, I'm missing one right here. Right there. That's why I was feeling a little weird as well. So I just need another key right here. And then, am I missing any others? I don't think so. So let's just quickly pose out the hair on this frame. It's just gonna come down. Okay. I can't go half an hour animating without music. I'm similar. I need to listen to things as I'm working. I have a hard time. If I sit down and I'm going to start working, the first thing I do is, okay, what's going to be my playlist? What am I going to be listening to? Usually it's some sort of like YouTube video game playlist. So I'll just find some like playlist that's just playing like usually like classic video game music, SNES music, or even Nintendo 64 music, NES music, stuff like that. And I'll just listen to that. But I need that kind of auditory breakdown of sound. I can't, if I was to just start like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to start animating, right away my brain is going to go, nope, can't focus. So yeah, I watch series while animating. I've done that as well. So when I was a student, I would watch Wreck-It Ralph, Adventure Time. So I would just have a playlist of Adventure Time, and I would just like let that play while I was working. And that was really fun. Adventure Time, it was one of those shows that you could just kind of listen to, and you didn't have to pay attention at all. What else did I listen to? I think mostly it was Adventure Time at that time. Okay, so I'm just trying to get the overlap working here. Just experimenting. And you can see how with this overlap here, when we're dealing with a rig, it takes a lot longer. This is why at the beginning, I got all of the overlap, the main overlap done by drawing it out. Because the moment that you stick with a rig, it's a lot of like back and forth with all of these controls, which is kind of annoying. There we go. So something like that for now. We'll call that for now. So yeah, there's the overlap on the hair. It's a little bit much at the very end, but I kind of like it, so we'll keep it for now. So that's one way of animating overlap. It took us about an hour and a half-ish. Now, to be fair, we were explaining a lot of it. Normally, to animate something like this, it would take maybe half an hour to an hour, something like that. It really doesn't take long. And once again, the reason why it doesn't take too long is that we took the time to plan it out. And we planned it out with our grease pencil tool here. So we drew it out, and you can see how it's very close. There's a few areas where like it doesn't quite match, like right in here. And then right at the end, right there, I exaggerated the animation there. But overall, it's pretty much exactly what we drew. And it works. So we spent our time mostly just kind of matching the pose, which is very quick. And then from there we can refine. So there's a few things that I would have to refine from the side view here a little bit. But honestly, I don't have to spend too much time on that. At least not right now. We can do that at another point. It's right here where it kind of feels a little stiff. So there we go. So this is one way we can do our animation overlap. Now, we have the bangs here. Now we can animate the bangs with all of these individual controls, or we can use this kind of global control here a little bit. For the bangs, let's try this. Let's use this global control. I didn't use it for the hair here because it would just be too stiff. It would be very bland if we just used that. But I think with the bangs, like bangs don't move that much. They're gonna have a little bit of bounce to them and a little offset. I think we can just use this. And this way we're not dealing with all of these extra controls. Now, if I am doing this, what I need to do is I need to take all of the bangs right here. Let's make sure I don't have anything else. And I'm going to zero them out, reset their pose, because I don't want to have any contrast or conflicting animation. Not conflicting. What's the term I'm looking for? Counter animation. That's the term I'm looking for. So I don't want to have counter animation on there. Counter animation is essentially when you're animating something and you have two sets of controls and they are doing opposite things. That would get really annoying very quickly. So let's animate the bangs in a slightly different way. Mostly because they're not going to be having a huge amount of overlap. What we can do is just animate it by hand, and we're just going to go straight forward with it. So straightforward animation is essentially you start on frame 1 and then you just go forward and see where it takes you. So for example here, as she comes down, the bangs could have a little bit of drag over to the side and maybe just kind of come up just a tad. So we just get a little fluff right there. Kind of keep going up here just a bit. So something like that. As they come down. So now it comes down. Let's kind of push them down a little bit. So we kind of get that little bounce in the hair. Maybe a little too much there. And then drag it back. Keep dragging it. Let's really drag it there. Now, can I drag it forward? Or actually, wait. I have to double check here. So if I drag this versus rotating it. Okay, it does kind of the same thing. Okay. So this is where you have to be very conscious of which controls you're using. As I create this rotation of the hair, I want to make sure I'm rotating it, not translating it. So the translation, the up and down, that's going to be for the foofing. We'll call it the foofing, that. The rest of the motion should be rotation. If I translate, it kind of does the same thing, but I can't translate it forward, whereas rotation, I can. Actually, does that do the same thing? Okay, wait. So that does the same thing as that. So, and then the rotate Y. Okay. Okay, so I could just translate it then. Since it does the same thing, let's do it that way. Translation is going to be a little faster. Okay. So, this is where you have to be very aware of your controls. Always test your controls and see what they do. So it gets dragged. Maybe a little lower right there. Comes up. And here, we're definitely going to poof that hair out a little bit. Overlap. Let's drag that back. So we're starting to get that poof as she comes down. Let's overshoot it. So the straightforward method, I really like animating hair like this, just because it feels like very natural as you're animating. You're going through, you're feeling it out versus trying to plan it perfectly. Now, for something like this is easy because I'm literally just using one control and I'm doing the whole thing. That's great. For the back of the hair here, I don't like animating with the straight ahead as much because you're dealing with a lot more stuff. Like there's 9 different controls just to get the hair somewhat shaped correctly. And if I was to just try to animate it with the straight ahead method there, I feel like I would just be fighting the controls more often, just trying to get the curves that I want in there. So there's a different technique for different moments. In this case, this technique will work well here. Now, I kind of want this to bounce down, like really go down. I'm trying not to stick her hair in her eye. And then I kind of want it to bounce back up here. So we kind of get that little bounce in the hair. Let's drag it down. And I'm really just going by the silhouette and the shape of the hair here. Drag that back. Really drag that here. Kind of floof it out a little bit. So we get that drag on that side there. And then drag that. So I'm looking at the visual design of the hair. I want that to stick out. This is where a global control like this, you start to find limitations. Because in order to get that drag, the hair should be kind of pointing like flat against the head and dragging over at an angle. But the only control I have is to push it out globally like this. So I have to kind of fake it a little bit more. Is that bad? No. not necessarily, but it's definitely not going to get me the shape that I want, or I should have. Let's like really get that up there. So it's just one of those things that you have to kind of fight in your animation when you're using kind of a global control like this. Again, is it a bad thing? No. Just something to be aware of. Where we're making our life easier because I don't have to animate a ton of controls, but I am losing that control as well. I'm giving away some of my ability to animate. So as an animator, we have to be aware of that. How much are we giving away versus how much are we gaining by using these kind of controls? Okay, so there's the bangs. Let's take a look at how that feels. Yeah, that's pretty good. It feels a little heavy right there. The hair kind of it flattens out quite quickly. Right here. So I think I'm gonna keep it a little floofier. Let's foof it up a bit. That's the official term, foofing. So, gonna bring it down a little bit there, and then have it hit a little bit more there. Make it a little too floaty now. Just a little bit. There we go. So something like that. Done. All about puffy hair. Yeah, when you need poofy hair, that I've got the reference for that. Straight hair that's like nice and silky smooth. Nah, can't do that. One of my hairs is now trying to poke me in the eye. Betrayal. Now, one thing I do need to do is I need to do an individual hair pass right here at the end. Because she is putting her hand right next to her face, I'm going to have to go through here and make sure that that hair is not cutting through the arm. Right there. So just kind of pose that out, try to get a nice silhouette with the eyes. And even maybe try to animate it so it feels like the hair is kind of getting pushed by the arm a little bit. So just kind of push that through there. And this is where we can now get a little counter animation in there. So something like this. Doesn't take long, but now she doesn't have that weird cut right through her arm. There we go. So we've got that. Okay, done. Yeah, that was easy. That took what? It took us an hour and a half to do the whole back of the hair, and then the whole front of the hair took us 10 minutes? Not even. When I said it was an hour and a half, it was 11:20. Now it's 11:35, so that's 15 minutes. Between explanation and everything else, what? It took 5-ish minutes to do the whole thing? Not bad. So straight ahead, I really love the straight ahead method because it just feels organic as you're moving it, and once you get used to it, it just kind of, it flows naturally. The negative to it is you kind of have to know what you want a little bit. You need to kind of, you're watching your spacing, your timing, all of that as you're going, the overlap. You're kind of putting everything in at the same time. And then the other negative is that for complex actions, so things like the back of the hair where it's a bigger object, it's trickier. So let's do next, we need to do the ponytail. So the ponytail, let's reset this here. Rotate X. Okay. So the ponytail, we've got a few different ways we could animate it. I could just animate it with this control. Now let's see, do the translates and rotates do the same thing? No. Okay. So I could just animate it this way and we could go straight ahead. The problem with this is that unless I can, yeah, so the problem with this is no matter what, I'm not going to be able to get S shapes. So S shapes is like when you have a curve overlapping, you'll have C shapes, reverse C's, and S's. And S's are very important when you have something like a pendulum or a ponytail, because as something swings through, it's not going to just kind of straighten out and then swing back. So if you imagine kind of, let's actually draw it here, a pendulum shape here, it's not going to just do this as it's traveling across. The middle is not going to be straight, which is what we're going to get with that default rig. Instead, you're going to get something like this. That's what's going to create that swinging motion and that natural motion in there. This S shape right there. Because that control doesn't give us that ability, I wouldn't trust it. At least not for bigger motions. And since this character is doing some big motions, not something we'd want to do. Now, isn't hair always simulated in big studio movies like Disney? Yes. So big studio movies, when you actually see like the individual hairs, yeah, those are simulated. Now, with that said, animators will often animate like proxy hair so that the simulators know where to put the hair or how to make it more stylized. It's not just like, okay, hit the simulate button, whatever physics happens, happen. No, they are stylized simulations. So as an animator, even on a Disney film where they're going to simulate the hair, there will be times when you need to go, okay, this is what I want the hair to do. And then the simulation department will take it and then try to replicate that or do something new out of it. So there's a back and forth there. And I'm not sure if I should learn animating hair. Definitely learn how to animate hair. Honestly, it's learning how to animate overlap. You learn how to animate overlap, you know how to animate hair. So for example, if I have an object here and I'm doing that, that's overlap. That's hair animation. It's the same thing. If I've got like a handle for the Wii U on my desk. If I learn how to animate this overlapping, well, now I know how to animate hair as well. It's the same thing, it's just a different weight. So I was gonna just pluck a hair and show that, but no one's gonna see it on screen. So let's actually go, we'll take this here once again. So hair is just overlap with a different weight. It's a very thin, light material. So I could have, again, like let's take this, overlap. There's a weight at the end of this and I'm moving through. So if you're animating a character with a weapon and they're like spinning it around and like doing all of these things, okay, that's overlap. If you have a solid object and you're doing this, well, that's another form of overlap. This object swinging in the hand. It's just a solid object with more weight. If I have this and I'm trying to do that, that's overlap with a very heavy object. This is overlap with a very light object. It's just overlap. So when we say we're doing hair animation, it's just animating overlap with hair. That's it. So there's no like, oh, just learning how to animate hair. You're learning how to animate overlap with a light object. So I hope that makes sense. And overlap is one of those things that you need to learn how to animate, or else you're going to be missing out on a big aspect of motion. Even our head, like doing this, that's overlap in the head. Overlaps and overshoots. If I do this, that's my elbow overlapping, lead and follow. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's do the ponytail here. Now for the ponytail, I can do this in a few different ways. I could draw it out and plan it out, which, okay, great. But the thing is, no one really sees it. I could just hide it. So I could just take the ponytail here. I wonder if I just scale that down to 0. Like, I could do that. But is that gonna make a difference? Honestly, I could probably just do that. Just hide it the whole way. But I don't really want to do that. This is kind of just a personal thing for me. I want to approach this as if, like, maybe the camera could get changed at any point. It wouldn't, because if we do, the face gets all messed up. So that means that I have to redo the whole face animation. But what if we needed this ponytail animated? For something like this, there's a few different ways you can animate it. Let's do the copied method, just to show that form of animating. So the copied method is you animate one part of the overlap first. So you would only animate, for example, the base of the ponytail. And then you'd copy that animation over onto the other elements. Now, one thing with ponytails that a lot of people tend to forget is that the base of a ponytail doesn't move very much. So let me actually, okay, this is going to be, okay, we're going to do this. This is for demo purposes. Gonna get gift or something, I'm sure. Let me take this off for now, and I'm gonna tie my hair. We'll do it on the side here. That'll be easiest to see. So I'm gonna tie my hair, and essentially what I'm gonna do, curly hair is terrible to try and tie. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just show how much the ponytail, GIF at the ready. Yeah, there we go. I've never done a side ponytail like this before. Feels weird. Okay, so, haha. Finger guns. So, aren't I pretty? I need another one on the other side. Get the Pippi Longstocking look. There you go. It's perfect. It's beautiful. Oh. I'm doing it for humanity, exactly. For all the animators out there. Let's see, I thought he was going to flip his hair like when people come out of the pool. I can't do that. Well, maybe... There you go. And my hair into my face. So, if we look at the ponytail here. Now, to be fair, my hair is very stiff, so you can see it doesn't really move that much. Look at where it's pivoting. As I do this, where is it moving the most from? Not here. The base of the ponytail right there, because you've got an elastic, because it's tied there, it doesn't move here. This is not the part that's moving. It's moving from just past that. Hot tub stream. Oh no. Just walk out of the water. Do that Baywatch, like Pantene Pro V commercial, Head and Shoulders. So if you watch this, like watch where it's rotating. Here, about there. And then the bottom, is it really overlapping that much? Not really. Like if I kind of go towards camera here, you get a little bit of twisting, but it's not doing this kind of whipping motion. It's stiff. It's rotating from right around here. That's about it. I see a lot of people when they start animating ponytails, they start to just whip them around and they're getting all of these complex S shapes and they're rotating it right from the base and doing this. That creates a tail. Like imagine a horse doing this. Foop, foop, foop. It's like a horse's tail kind of trying to swat flies away. Our hair doesn't do that. It doesn't have a bone or some muscle right there. It's just hanging there. This is stiff. So, oh, my hair's turned into knots. It's already attached itself to this elastic. It's not, ow, it's not letting go. Slowly get it out. There we go. No hair is lost. Phew. And now we have to do the Pantene Pro V. There you go. That's all I can do. Whew. Or wait, we can do the heavy metal concert. There we go. I can't do that. My hair, it doesn't flip. I can feel it. It just stays super stiff. Yeah. There we go. Really have to whip it. I have a delay on the stream, so yeah, there you go. It works kind of. So all of that to say that when you're animating a ponytail, be very careful how you animate it. You can helicopter it? Oh no. Well, we've got to do it now. Can I helicopter it? I've never helicoptered my hair before. This is for demo purposes. We're talking about hair overlap. My hair doesn't overlap, it just foofs. So there you go. There you go. Oh. And now I'm ready to stream. There we go. I'm gonna have to fix this before I blind myself. So, where am I saying he's old? No. I would probably dislocate my neck. My neck tends to pop. So my spine, when I hurt my back a few weeks ago, it's essentially my spine tends to pop in weird ways, specifically my neck. So if I'm not careful, especially when I'm looking up, my vertebrae will just go tuk and pinch a nerve, which is it's a lot of fun. The last time that happened in my neck, it took me out for 2 weeks. And all I did was I looked up. I was standing under a tree and I wanted to look up to see if it was dead. I went like that and I felt the vertebrae just go tuk, and then it was sitting on a couch for 2 weeks, barely able to move. So yay for wiggly bones. And to be fair, I am old. I'm falling apart. I'm decrepit. I'm a twin. We age twice as fast. It's the curse. So, all of that, all of that demo and blackmail material, just to say that when you're animating the ponytail, don't do this. If you start animating that joint too much, your ponytail isn't going to look like a ponytail. It's going to look like a tail. Instead, you're going to want to push this joint a little bit more. It's okay that this rotates a little bit and adjusts, but it shouldn't be the big motion. Let's see. So, all of that, just to say that we can animate this, and we're going to use a copied method here. So, to do this, I'm going to animate the hair, but I'm going to animate one joint only. So let's do the middle joint here and kind of just get this in place. If I need to adjust the first joint, we can always do that at another time. So it's going to be just straight ahead animation once again with this one joint. So it drags down, drags across. Now this is where straight ahead animation, one thing I'm not a fan of in Maya is that you can't really see ghosting of where the hair used to be, at least not easily. And that to me is a real shame. I would love, and this is the features that they're bringing this into newer features of Maya, where you have ghosting, like really good ghosting abilities. But right now, there's not a solid way of doing that. I could ghost controls. So for example, I could ghost this control right here. So I'll select that and go visualize ghost selected. And you can see there's this kind of ghost trail element of it. I could do something like that, and let's actually open up our ghost options. So I'm gonna put this on, let's see, custom frame steps. No, let's do custom key steps. So it's gonna show my keys, and I want, let's say, 4 steps before, 4 steps after. And let's do the whole thing here. Ghost. Okay. So we can kind of see where the tail was a little bit this way. Is this great? I honestly don't use this very often, mostly because ghosting is, you don't have a ton of control for it. Let's see, do we have any ghosting in here? So the ghosting, actually, maybe it's in the attribute editor here. It doesn't really allow you to like change the colors here. Like I would love it if it had frame before, frame after. That would be really nice. So just like the blue pencil, how you can have the frame before, frame after color. And yes, thank you for the reminder, buddy. Ghost layering, yeah, it is exactly like onion skinning. It's the equivalent of that. Now you can ghost geometry, but let's try it. I haven't tried it on this rig. The problem is I would only want to ghost the ponytail, and this is the whole hair. Let's see. Is it going to ghost the geometry? No. If I turn on cached playback, will it ghost it? No. There is a way to ghost geometry, but usually it's more of a hassle than anything else. So ghosting is nice. I know a lot of people who actually prefer ghosting versus tracking arcs, just because it's a little bit more visual in terms of what you see. But for me, the big problem is that it's just kind of visually confusing a lot of the time. But for this, at least it'll allow us to kind of point the hair in the right direction. And since I only actually need the last joint, let's actually unghost, visualize, unghost selected, and unghost that one. And we'll just do the bottom joint here. That way we can kind of see where the hair was pointing towards. So something like this. Like I said, I don't use ghosting too often. I think in the newer versions of Maya, there's going to be some new ghosting options that I'm looking forward to. There's this big rotation here. That's good. Let's kind of rotate this here. At this point, I'll probably have to start rotating this joint up a little bit, just because of the amount of rotation we're getting in here. But for now, let's just kind of get this first joint right through here working. So comes through, needs to drag back, and then whip through. So just animating this straight ahead. Actually, just trying to think of the best way to animate this. I could do that first joint. The hair is starting to deform in weird ways. So see here how I'm getting this pinch? Hair wouldn't pinch like this. So let me actually, I'm going to quickly undo. We're going to animate that base joint, but then we're going to tone it down later. It's going to make things a little easier for us right off the bat. As much as I don't want to, really, especially for the more subtle motions, it's, if I don't do it now, I'm going to run into issues where my overlap is going to get messed up. So let's do this for now. It's going to be toned down quite a bit as we go. Because once again, our hair doesn't rotate from this joint. It just doesn't. If it did, it would just look really weird. Okay. So going through BH Ghost Tool. Yeah, that's a really good plugin. I actually used to have it. I wonder if I still have a license to it. I really like that. I used that for a lot of creature shots that I was working on. It's a great ghosting tool. That's a ghosting tool that works much more like traditional onion skinning. And I really enjoyed it. I don't know why I don't have it anymore. I'm going to open up that link. So just for anyone who hasn't seen it before, it's essentially, there we go, right here. It lets you just save a capture of a pose, and it shows you the previous and next poses. Really nice there. So let's actually go through. I wonder if they've updated it. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Missed a pose. So you can kind of see a little outline right there of where it used to be. So I'm actually going to download that after the stream here because I love that tool and I haven't had it for a while. But that does make things like this a lot easier. Okay, so flip through. Make sure I'm looking at this from multiple angles. I just want this drag here. I'm gonna overlap, drag it back. So something like that starts to come through. Let's keep dragging it down. Okay. So we're just doing one joint at a time here. Now here it's going to probably whip through a little bit just because of the weight of the ponytail. It's not that heavy, but just get a little bit more kind of flow to it. Comes through. Let's drag it a little bit more there, drag it a little bit more here. Get that nice overlap in there. And then as it comes up, we drag it some more. Even though we're not going to see it, there will be points like right here. You can feel that hair separating right there. So this is why, even though we wouldn't see it normally and we could have hidden it, if this was a character where, like, let's say there's more to this film and there's a moment where they turn around and we know that they have a ponytail, I could cheat it so that the ponytail never is visible on this shot. Great. But there should be moments where that ponytail will be visible because it's overlapping. And that could break the realism and the kind of flow of the shot here if I don't consider that. So always be aware of your shot and what you're kind of, what would be the right word? we always need to be considering that even though we could hide something, if we do, it might break the reality of it. And this is especially true when you have something that's like not on screen. So if you're, like I talked about hips before, oh yeah, we don't see the hips on screen. Well, if you don't animate the hips, it's definitely going to look weird. So you want to make sure to not, your cheating animation should not be your like go-to, yep, that's what I'm going to do. It's going to be just simplify this and I don't have to worry about it. It is an option, it's a tool that we have, but it shouldn't be our first go-to. Especially like here. As soon as I pose that hair out properly so it hangs, well, look at that, we see it in silhouette. Okay. So it goes through, swings. You can probably push it a little bit and then let's kind of push to a stop there. Okay. So how does this ponytail look? Not bad. It feels a little heavy right there. It kind of bounces against the body a little too much right here. I think it can drag just a little bit more. And then just be a little lighter. Again, ponytails, it's not like there's a lot of weight there. So they're not going to slam into the back of the head. Okay. So we've got that. There we go. Now, how can we take this animation that we've done to the base of the ponytail and make it read better? Well, there's a few different ways we can do this. One of them, and it's going to be a little tricky here because we're in a stepped mode, is I can take the animation from the base ponytail right here, and I'm just going to clean this up a little bit because it seems weird that there would be a little bounce there. So let's clean up some of our arcs here just a bit. So push that a little, and then double check this, make sure there's nothing super weird. Overall looks pretty good. Okay, so we've got our base rotations there, and I can get rid of this. You shouldn't have any rotate Z in this case, we don't need it. Okay, so we've got the hair pretty much. Oop, let's actually get this in here. So this can be the rotate Y. These just hang down a little bit more there. There we go. Okay, so we've got the hair pretty much animated on that base there. Great. How can we use that to simplify our next animation so that we're not having to do the next part of the tail or the ponytail all on our own and kind of redo it all from scratch? Because that kind of sucks, having to do stuff like that. Just kind of repeat the same motion over and over and over. Well, what we can do is we can copy our animation here and paste it onto the next segments of our ponytail. So I'm going to take the base ponytail here. I'm going to copy the rotate Y curve, and I'm going to paste it onto the other joints right here. So rotate Y, let's get rid of that animation that we currently have, which is nothing. Edit, paste, and actually I'm going to do all the rotate Y at the same time. So that, edit, paste, and I'm just going to make sure that this is set to copy from my current time frame, which is good. It'll copy on frame 1, and I want to insert it. So we'll just hit paste keys, and now all of that animation is on all the different ponytail bits. Great. Let's do the same thing with rotate X. So we'll take our rotate X curve, copy that, paste it on all the other joints. So rotate X, delete that, edit, paste. There we go. Now, and actually I pasted on the wrong frame. So make sure I'm on frame 1, edit, paste. Now that ponytail is going crazy. Ugh, that doesn't look great. What did we do wrong? Well, for one, everything is happening on the very same frame. So it's just going to go really crazy. Especially at the end there. It's just like, ugh. We lose that whole pose at the end. Okay, so what do we do? How do we make this read correctly? Well, there's two things. One is we need to offset those frames. So the ponytail needs to offset on each joint. So the first one is going to move first, then the second, then the third, then the fourth. So if I take my rotations here, let's do our rotate X first. And I'm going to show you how to do this without any plugins. We need to offset these curves. And to make this read a little bit more clearly, I'm just going to take my curves and set them to auto tangents. That way the ponytail is actually moving, and you can see here how it looks really weird as it's moving. It doesn't feel like it's overlapping. It just kind of curls in weird ways. Ugh. So we need to offset. So I'm going to take my rotate X, and I'm going to go to view, and I'm going to go to stacked view. You can hit the number 2 key to show this. And essentially, let's make sure I have all my curves selected here again. Rotate X. What this is going to do is show you all of your curves instead of over top of each other, which is the normal view because they all have the same values. It's going to stack them. I'm also going to go to view, and I'm going to turn on curve names. And let's just do curve names always. This will show you the name of the curve right there. So let's select them in the right order. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rotate X. And now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know why 4 is at the top, but that's fine. Now I can just take these. I'm going to offset. Let's do 1 frame at a time for now. Just like this. So now all the curves have a little bit of an offset to them. And what that's going to start to do is start to create that overlapping action. So let's do this with our rotate Y as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So take these. 1, 2, 3. So this is going to start to get some overlapping action, but it's still going to be way too much. I think I can probably overlap it maybe a couple of frames each. So 2, and then 2, and 2, and let's do our rotate X. So I'm offsetting everything 2 frames. So we get something like this. And it's starting to move. Like it's kind of overlapping, but it's going crazy. So at this point, what I need to do is I need to just scale down my curves to be appropriate for each joint. So for example, we'll start with the base joint here. How much motion should the base joint have? Well, like we talked about earlier, not that much. These joints just don't move very much in comparison to the whole base of the tail. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to tone down these curves. I'm just going to scale them down. So I'm just going to scale them whoop, down here. I don't want much motion on that base of the ponytail there. Let's look at our second curve, or actually, let's do the bottom curve here, because honestly, the bottom is not going to move that much either. Like we did with the example of my hair, there's not going to be that much rotation there. So I'm going to tone this down and just really scale it. So we get a little bit of that motion, but not much. So something along these lines there. So a little bit of motion, maybe a little bit more. Let's see. Let's go to the point where it's rotated the most, and yeah, let's scale it just a little bit. Do the next joint, same thing. Let's scale this down. Kind of get it back into a hair-like shape. There we go. It's starting to look a little bit more like a ponytail now. It's not going super crazy. Now I can take the middle joint here. This is the one that is going to really shape the hair and make sure it's kind of pointing in the right direction. So we're going to take this and we're going to scale it and also make sure that it's kind of pointed in the correct directions. So let's see here. Okay, I'll have to add some rotate Z to it. Actually, let me double check something here. Y, X, Y. Okay. So notice something here. My y-axis goes front to back. X goes side to side. Here, y-axis goes front to back. Z-axis goes side to side here. The x-axis spins. Z. Z. Okay. So on these ones, it looks like they switched the angle. So I'm just going to copy my axes from the X. Let's get rid of that. And paste it onto my Z axis instead. So always double check this. I forgot to do it earlier. You want to double check that it doesn't... What's the right word I'm looking for? That you're not... Words are not coming to me. That your axes are correct. Sometimes on rigs, let's say your forward axis could be the X axis typically. On a different control, that could be the Z axis. So you want to make sure that you're connecting things on the correct axes, or else things are not going to line up, which is what happened with me. So I'm going to delete that, paste it on the Z. So I'm just deleting the keys that aren't there, edit, paste, and then same thing here, copy X, edit, copy, delete it, rotate Z, delete that, edit, paste. There we go. So that should get us a little bit of that flipping action a little bit better. Yeah, how do they work? Words, they are mysterious. Okay. So from here, let's go back in here. So rotate Z. This is the one that I need to really focus on. This is why our ponytail was looking a little weird and crooked. This is what's going to allow us to get that side to side motion here. I just want to make sure this reads correctly. So as it comes through here, comes through. It's dragging way too much here. So let's kind of reshape our curve here just a little bit. Take all of this and I'm going to scale it down. Right around there. Okay. And why is it changing there? Don't need that. Okay. So let's see how the ponytail feels right now. It's going to be very weird because our animation is on step mode and then the ponytail is on ones. But overall, it's working decently. So essentially what we did was we animated the one joint, copied it over onto the others, and now we're starting to get that overlapping action. And we're just scaling curves and readjusting a little bit here and there to make sure that it works correctly. But yeah, there we go. Make sure it's actually going to point down here. So rotate Y. Let's adjust that. Okay. There we go. So that gives us a start to this. Now, if this was animated on ones and we were going to like clean this up, from here I would just start polishing up, cleaning some of my arcs, whatnot, which would be perfect. But we are not animating on ones right now. We are animating on kind of these multiples. So twos, threes, like there's no set motion here. So how do I clean this up? How do I make sure that I now take this and I set it to follow the keys that I've already done, and I'm not just getting this like weird janky feeling here? I can't just go into stepped mode. So if I take the hair here and let's put it all in step mode. Boop. Now the hair, sometimes it moves, sometimes it doesn't. That's not good either. We don't want that. So how do I do this? How do I get this hair back into sync with everything else? Well, there's a few different ways we could do this. The way I'm going to do this is first make sure I just have the ponytail selected. Good. And I need to essentially set a key everywhere that has, or how to put this. I just need to make sure that I have a bunch of keys on here, and then I need to delete anything that isn't necessary. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation. And I'm going to bake this on ones. So sample by 1 every frame. What this is going to do is it's going to put a key on every single frame on all of these curves. So let's bake that. There we go. Everything on ones. Now what this means is that whole animation that we had is fully keyed. Ugh, that's a lot. Do we need all that? No. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete all the curves that I don't need. Translates, don't need those. This is just going to simplify. You don't have to delete them, but since we don't need them, might as well delete them. And then our rotate Z, I'm going to delete this curve. And then our rotate X, I'm going to delete, let's see, these curves. Yeah. So now we're left with just the curves that have animation on them, like so. And what I'm going to do is just match them to one of the other curves that have just the keys that I want right there. So I'm going to delete all the extra keys. So don't need any keys in here. Nope. Delete those. Nope. Delete. Let's actually make the graph editor even bigger here. Full screen. Or as big as we can get it. And I'm just going through Where is that base curve there? Right here. Oops. Ooh, don't do that. So I'm looking at this curve. I'm deleting all the keys that don't line up. So all that. And it's a little tedious. Unfortunately, there's no kind of quick, super way to do this because there was no base that we could use. But it still allows us to work through. Now, another thing I could do, let's clean this up. You'll notice that it's a little skewed right here. This is because this control is, well, actually, wait, what's going on here? What changed? Okay. I was worried. It was just a refresh issue. So let's keep going here. So we've got the ponytail, and then we've got this. The other thing I could actually do is let's see what stacked view will look like. There we go. And we'll only look at our rotates. That'll simplify the view. There we go. So the top curves here, these are from the master control. I'm just going to delete all the keys in between. Doot, doot, doot. A little tedious, but doesn't take long. And essentially what I've done is I've copied the animation, offset the animation, then baked it out so it's all on ones. And now I've realigned everything back onto my keys like that. So what we have now should be nice overlapping animation that matches what we currently had. There you go. Is it perfect? No. We could exaggerate it, make it a little bit bigger, especially like right at the end. I feel it kind of loses a little bit of the motion right here. But we animated one control, and from there, we've animated the rest. And you can see we're getting that nice S shape right in there. So this is a very nice kind of quick way to animate some nice overlap without having to go super in depth on there. Now, one thing I'm not liking, just kind of visually, is the overlap here is a little strong. So I'm going to take that curve and I'm just going to tone it down. This would be the rotate Y. Let's not drag that quite so far. It was pointing back too high. So I'm going to just take this and let's scale it down. Something a little more like that. And we'll just push this pose here specifically. I don't want it to cut across like this. So we're going to keep it a little exaggerated. And then let's tone this down and push this up so our silhouette of the hair doesn't match. I want this nice negative shape in there. But at this point, we're just shaping the hair and not having to animate the whole thing from scratch. I wonder if I can actually, let's offset this a little bit. So the hair, we get a little bit more of a kind of flip here, round shape, and then it flips. It's nice because it added contrast, but it kind of breaks the continuity of the hair. Okay. So just a little bit of refining. And then right here, it feels like it could be refined just a little bit more as well. There we go. Done. So we got that whole ponytail animated in what, like 30 minutes or something like that? Like, not counting all the time we were like doing ponytail demos and stuff. Of course it needs more work. Like I'm kind of skipping the polish phase right now, just getting the core blocked out. But that's all we need at the moment. So we've got all of this. Yay. So that's 3 different ways of animating hair. We did the block out method where we drew it out ourselves first, then followed along. We did the straight ahead method, just like do the whole thing one pose at a time. And now we did the copied method where you copy one pose, or you do one control and then you copy it over onto all the others. And then there you go. There's all sorts of different ways to animate overlap like this. This doesn't just go for hair, it goes for any type of overlap. And there is no one way to do it where you have to do it this way. It always has to be done this way. No other way to do it. No, you do the one that works best for that situation. So for example, straight ahead work great for the bangs because they're simple. There's not too much to them. There's just one control and I can do the whole thing. But it wouldn't work great for the back of the hair. The ponytail works great with the I'm getting a little bit of motion right there. I thought I saw it. The ponytail works great with the copied method because it's a little simpler. I could have animated it straight ahead, but the problem with trying to animate the ponytail straight ahead would be that I would be what would be the right word I'm looking for? I would be dealing with more controls and trying to get all of these specific forms. Is that a bad thing? Not at all. But if we can animate one control and then use it to animate the rest, it just makes our lives a little simpler, a little easier. So we can use these different methods just to make certain moments easier on ourselves. So with all of this, let me actually, I'm just going to clean up my rotate set because it's kind of getting a little weird here. There we go. There we go. Now, there are some extra bits to the hair here that we haven't turned on yet. So this is the whisks, hair whisks, right here. So this character has these little like hair whisks. They just kind of hang from her face there. And we could animate these as well. And I kind of want to because, well, it'll be a little bit more interesting to have those on there. So I'm going to take these. Their keys are already set, so I'm good there. And let's go through. Let's see, that control, that one, we've got some animation on them already for some reason. So I'm going to just take all of these and reset them. So let's zero out all of this. And then, okay, good. Let's pose them out at the beginning. And then from there, we'll start trying to overlap them. Yeah, because why not? Exactly. Now, honestly, I don't have to animate these. The rig, I can tweak the rig to be however I want. If I don't want these hair whisks to be there, I don't have to put them there. This is very important, especially like as a student. If your rig has a ponytail, but you have the option to turn it off, you don't have to animate it. It's up to you, unless that shot is like a part of a sequence that has the ponytail on elsewhere. The reason I want to animate these is once again, I'm treating this like this character is part of a production. And in the previous scenes, well, she has these hair whisks. So I can't just go, I'm not going to animate these. I'm going to turn them off, because suddenly it would look like the character cut her hair for one scene and then it's back again the next scene. They have to be in here. So let's get them animated. Now, for these, let's animate them a different way. And I want to show a really cool plugin. I can't remember the price of this. Let me actually find the link here. I think it's like $25. It's the overlapper script. $20. And essentially this is a script that'll allow you to create overlap on certain things. Now I've I've never actually used this on a production or anything. I actually got this last week just to test for this demo for everyone. But I wanted to show that we have other options. Now I was doing some testing on this rig before the stream, and overall this plugin works really well, except for things that are like the back of the hair that's really complex and has a lot of controls, and like the fringe here, it didn't really work well because of the way those shaped. So certain things it's not going to do a great job with, but that's like any rig, any tool. It really depends on the rig that you're using. But let's see if we can use it for these hair controls right here. I'm going to activate the overlapper script, and I'm going to try to use it in step mode. I don't think it's going to work in step mode. I think I'll have to put everything in splines first and then use it and then go back to stepped. But we're going to give it a try. So in here, we have a few different options. We have softness. This is basically going to determine how much that plugin, or how much the object is going to sway. Hair, it's pretty soft. I'll leave it at the default 3 for now. Scale, that's basically the amplitude. How much should it multiply that motion by? So we're going to leave that at the default for now. And then you have don't use first control. So if I select a whole bunch of controls here, that'll basically make it so it doesn't use the first one. This is very good for something like a ponytail, where we don't really want that first control to move very much. It's the other controls underneath. Add translate. Well, normally it'll just calculate the rotation. Translate will calculate translation as well. In these cases, I probably won't need this. Hierarchy. Basically, this makes it so that I just have to select the top level of a joint chain. So for example, the top of the hair here, and it'll calculate the rest itself. If I don't have this on, I have to make sure that I select everything. And then cycle, it'll make sure that the overlapping animation that it does cycles at the end. So if you're doing a walk cycle, you can make sure that it loops back and it'll cycle correctly, which is really nice. That's a really cool feature. So in this case, I'm going to just make sure, let's try a hierarchy, make sure that's turned on, and I'm going to select this joint there and this one here, and we'll see if it works. So I'm just going to hit the overlap button. It'll calculate the overlap, and I should save. I just realized I haven't saved this whole all of today. So I'm going to save right now before I even go a step further. Please save. There we go. That moment when you realize that you've been animating for 3.5 hours and nothing has been saved. Okay. So now we look at our hair and hey, look, it's animated. It's on ones and it looks like it's freaking out. And this is what I thought would happen. Essentially, the reason it's freaking out is because I animated this on like step mode. It doesn't know how to calculate, I'm assuming. So you're gonna get frames like right here where you see how it just kind of freezes and stops and it gets all weird and funky. Let's undo this. And I'm gonna just take all of my animation. I'm gonna go very quickly into splines, which is gonna be interesting. Let's see how our shot looks going into splines. So I'm going to turn on all the body controls. I'm not going to worry about the face.
And let's just take everything here very quickly. Go to the graph editor, select it all, go into splines. Let's see what happens with our animation. Let's see it explode. Wait a second. Is that splines? Oh. It didn't explode. There you go. There's our shot in splines. Not bad. I'm actually shocked. It works. So, yay. Actually, I could go onto ones here and just do a little bit of polish, and it's pretty much done. So, not too bad. It's mostly the feet. The feet feel very soft. That's disappointment second time. I know. I keep wanting my shots to explode. Why won't they explode for me? But anyway, now the shots in splines. What this should allow me to do is to take this hair, and we're going to use that overlapper tool again, and hopefully it'll be able to calculate correctly, and get that nice overlapping animation in there. Getting too good. I spent too much time in blocking mode, and that's the big key. Like, I don't want to say this as like, oh, you have to do it this way. No, everyone has a specific workflow. You do what's best for you. For me, because I spent so much time like really refining my poses and trying to get that motion in that blocking and understanding my overlap, my overshoots, all of that stuff, and making sure I have enough keys to control it. My spline process is not going into splines and going, oh my god, what happened? No. There's definitely things to fix, but I've taken the time to think about it beforehand. I do need an emote, a save emote. That way people can spam it and remind me. Yeah, exactly that. What happened? That's what we need. We need a gif of that, like there's an emote or something of that Mickey Mouse. What happened? Just for something on the stream. That would be such a good one. Or that one of the woods. That moment was so good. Okay, so let's look at the hair here. So overall, not bad. Did I select both? It feels like only the one strand got animated. Oh wait, I think I selected the wrong control. Let's undo that. Okay, so make sure I select the right controls. That one and that one. And I feel like I could turn the softness, or let's turn the scale up. Let's do about 3 times more and see how that feels. Time to make things. Let's see. So let it calculate all its way through. Okay, a little too high. But it's definitely overlapping. That actually kind of looks cool. It's definitely too much, but it looks cool. So this script is really, really awesome. Like I said, I haven't tested it myself too much, but I have seen videos of people using it and showing how it can work, and it's really, really cool. If you are a student, do not use this script. You have to learn how to overlap things yourself first. It is a great tool to simplify certain things, but like I showed before, there are moments where you're going to have to overlap something yourself. A tool won't do the job for you. So it's great as a simple thing for later, like right here where we just need this quick little overlap on the hair, but don't use it as a crutch. Oh, I don't have to learn overlap. I don't need to worry about this anymore. I'll let the tool do it. It'll animate for me. No, never ever let a tool animate for you. We want to make sure that we build things in ourselves. So looking at this, I think this pretty good. I want to try something here. I'm not sure if this tool considers current keys. So right now, like we've got all of these keys in here. I'm not sure if it kind of calculates those or uses those in its calculations. So I'm just going to delete those and then try to run the script again, just to see. The reason I'm wondering this is because at the very end, the hair is still sticking straight out instead of hanging down. So I want to see if that makes any difference. The animate button. Yeah, there is no animate button, unfortunately. It would be cool if there was, but yeah, so it looks like, yeah, the hair is in a different pose now. See how it's not sticking forward as much? So it looks like it calculates or it uses previous keys in its kind of calculations. So be very careful of that. There we go. I think that's pretty good. There's a few things I'm going to have to fix. So, of course, with a script, you do have to adjust things. And in this case, what's happening is the hair is like cutting into the face right here. So I'm going to have to go in here. Let's go into our graph editor and adjust some things. So let's see here. I'm just going to go through here and I need to make an adjustment over a span of frames in my graph editor. So if I move this here, let's actually just pose it out manually. Now this keyed it all on one, so I'm just going to have to kind of go through here and clean that up. We can go into the graph editor after and really refine things. But just make sure that doesn't cut through her face. Definitely don't want that. Now, let's see. Actually, I want to see if... Okay, it's mostly the rotate Z. So I could just go in here and let's just look at our rotate Z and just do a kind of global motion there. That should simplify it. Now the other hair piece, well, let's actually do one at a time. So now it comes through, overlaps through, it's cutting through her ear. So this is going to be my rotate X. I think. No, rotate Z. Yeah, so still rotate Z. So let's say I need to make an adjustment here, and you notice how the rest of the curve doesn't follow along. It's like, oh, if only I could just pull this out and affect the entire curve as well, just kind of reshape that. Well, you can. So I need to reshape essentially from frame 26, this whole section right here. So what I can do is turn on the lattice deform tool in the graph editor. And what this essentially gives me is a lattice that I can use to adjust my curves. And you notice how it, let's make sure I select that. It's affecting all of them. Now let's actually adjust the lattice. You'll notice it's a 3x3 grid, or 2x2. It's the 3x3 points. If I open up my tool options, I can actually change that size there. Let's make it a little bit of a simpler grid. And essentially I can use this to soft select the entire thing. So I'm going to move that up there, move that up here. Maybe let's add one more grid, one more column right there and round that out this way. There we go. I just changed that whole section there with very little effort, and it just quickly softened the whole thing. So same thing here. Which axis is going to be best here? Okay, so Z again. I'm going to take that whole section here And for this one, I think I can just scale it down. So just kind of zip right there. Now here, once again, it's kind of cutting into the face. So let's take all of this right through here, scale that up a little bit. And then, okay, yeah, we're definitely gonna have to change all of this here. So this whole section needs to be kind of redone. So I'm going to just morph it. So something more like that. There's a lot of tools that are kind of hidden in Maya that can really make certain things a lot easier to change. There we go. Now that hair doesn't cut through the face. Now let's look at the other one. Our playback is definitely getting a little slower here, so I'm going to turn on cache playback just for the sake of it. Oh, interesting. Hello. Hello, little friend. An ant just fell on my shoulder. Weird. Hello. I was just working at it. It's like, oh, something hit me. Ah. Aw, it's cute. Here you go. Be free. Have fun. I don't know how it fell on my shoulder. Yeah, next to a raccoon. Oh, that would be... An ant is fine. If it was a raccoon or some wild animal, ugh, that would be terrifying. So, let's look at that hair piece. All the controls are staying behind. Okay, so here, this is an issue. The hair should be affected by that hand. So let's make sure that as this goes through, it actually gets hit a little bit. So, oh, I should have put that ant further away. It's trying to crawl under my arms. I don't want to squish it by accident. So I'm going to have to animate this myself just a little bit. And really get that impact in the hair. And then let's drag it some more. So again, we talked about having to overlap things yourself as an animator. This is one of those cases where, okay, I could let the plugin do the work for me, which is great, but the plugin doesn't know that the arm should be hitting that moment there. So I need to be able to animate that overlap and make that feel believable without the plugin's help. That's on me. So knowing how to animate things and how to animate that overlap yourself is crucial. You cannot rely on a plugin. Okay. So here the hair is definitely cutting through. So let's take that control. This is going to be my rotate Z, I'm assuming. Let's take all of this and just... Oh, hello. Now it's on my hand. Let's get you on the floor. Nope, off my hand. There you go. Be free. Just don't walk under my feet. I've got a little friend now. My co-animator. Okay. So let's bring that up there. Comes through. overlaps forward. Now here, her hand misses it, so I don't have to worry about trying to animate that flicking through. I don't even really want it to hit there. And then, okay, that's good. So this one, that was an easy fix. So with that, I can take my shot and let's bring it back into stepped mode. As much as I do want to, it would be cool to animate this on ones. That's not the goal of this shot, so we're going to get it back the way it was. So we're going to take this, go back into stepped right here. And now you can see those ponytails are just kind of going crazy. So what I'm going to have to do is same thing as I did before. Just delete the extra keys. I'm going to take those controls, these controls here, and which one's the top one? This one. Okay, let's go to our stacked view, like so, and just delete all the extra keys we don't need. So just here, here, here. You can also use the dope sheet for this if you wanted to. Actually, the dope sheet might be easier. Let's actually, since we've done it this way, let's actually try the dope sheet. So the dope sheet, you can see it's basically a super timeline, and it's going to show us where we have keys on certain controls. So these are all animated on ones. These controls are not. So I can just go through here and just delete all the keys that we don't need. Now, I don't use the dope sheets too often, I will admit. I prefer the graph editor, but let's do something different. So we can just do this, select everything. Keep going, keep going. There we go. Take all of those. Oops, make sure I select everything and hit, oops, don't forget that one. Hit delete. There we go. Missed some. There we go. Now, that should be good. And I think, yeah, there's still a curve. Missed a curve. This one. So let's do this a different way. I'm going to select all the keys and then just deselect the ones I don't want to delete. And then we'll delete the rest. Like that. Make sure get that right. Hit delete. There we go. So let's take a look at this. Yeah, my viewport is it's getting a little weird. See how the timeline is getting a little off? That's a good indication that you should save your scene. Let's see. Tell me how can I improve my timing and spacing and animation in 2s? Well, timing and spacing and animation, regardless of whether you're 2s or 4s or 1s, to improve it, there's no way to improve in just one area. The best way to improve your timing and spacing, do master studies. So see how other films do their timing and spacing, especially if you want to capture a specific style, like a Hotel Transylvania style or an anime style. Study the thing that you want to kind of replicate. Do quick tests. So just animate a ball moving through the scene and try to make it interesting in timing and spacing. Don't worry about animating character. Just make a ball look interesting the way it moves, or travels through a scene. From there, transition into just a simple thing like a head turn, just a turn, and make the timing and spacing interesting. See how fast you can go. Can you do a head turn in 3 frames and make it look good? It's just doing those practices. The other thing with timing is don't be afraid of trying different ways of, what's the right word I'm looking for? Of understanding timing. So for me, what a lot of times when I'm trying to get a shot and I want to get a specific feel to it, I'll just record myself doing the sound effects for it. So maybe a character is running, so it's going to be run, 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 jump, hold, land, tumble, tumble, like. So you just do that. You record yourself doing that, and that gives you the timing of your shot. As long as you visualize it and try to understand what you want to get out of it. And that can work really, really well in understanding that timing, and then you just put in Maya or whatever program and you do that. So try all of those things, but the biggest one is master studies. Really do a lot of master studies. So let's take a look at this now, see what we're getting. And yeah, we've got the hair pretty much done. So at this point, let's actually do a play blast, because with all the hair, our playback is not getting as reliable as before. So I'm just going to do a quick play blast here, and then we'll see how it feels. Okay. There we go. There's the hair.